Chapter 540. Zhongqing never thought that Zhong Chuyu's nascent soul stage tribulation would come in such an extremely sudden way. Looking at Zhong Chuyu's pale face, his heart sank to the bottom. He said to Ningya, "Miss Ning, Madam's body is a little weak. May I ask if you—" While speaking, Zhongcheng turned his eyes to Ningya. When he saw Ningya's state, he couldn't help but be stunned on the spot. He didn't know when Ningya's aura had become extremely unstable. It seemed that she was facing her own nascent soul stage tribulation like Zhong Chuyu. Zhongcheng was stunned. He had lived for hundreds of years, but this was the first time he had seen such a situation. Two cultivators in the peak gold core stage were facing their nascent soul stage tribulation at the same time in the same place. Not to mention Zhongcheng, Ningyu was also stunned. She never thought that she would be affected by Zhong Chuyu's aura and face her own nascent soul stage tribulation in advance. But she was completely unprepared. If she faced the tribulation in such a hurry, she might be directly obliterated by the thunder tribulation. "Go find Qin Chuan," Ningyu said to Zhong Cheng with some difficulty. "He can help me." At this time, the aura of the tribulation had become stronger and stronger. Ningyu knew that she couldn't wait any longer. She took out 2 portions of the consul's thigh meat from her storage ring, threw one of them to Zhong Chuyu, who was not far away, and said in a deep voice, "Eat." Zhong Chuyu took the thigh meat and directly opened her mouth to eat without even looking. When the fragrant thigh meat turned into a warm current that contained astonishing energy in her body, her complexion finally became better. However, this warm current was consumed extremely quickly and couldn't last for long. Rumble. In the hotel, Qin Chuan looked at the gloomy sky outside the window and felt the terrifying pressure that made him shudder. His face couldn't help but become extremely dignified. The sky in the mountain amongst city is created by the real-time simulation system. It's not a real sky, but the sky now gives me a very real feeling. What's the matter with the dark clouds and the pressure? Qin Chuan was puzzled, but Lion Duke, who was standing next to him, had a serious look on his face. "This is a heavenly tribulation." Lion Duke pursed his lips. "Someone is going through a heavenly tribulation in the city." Qin Chuan looked at Lion Lord in shock. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. In the city? The Golden Core Thunder Tribulation has such a terrifying momentum. Lion Duke looked at Qin Chuan and said in a deep voice, "Who told you that this is the Gold Core Thunder Tribulation? This is a nascent soul lightning tribulation." Qin Chuan was shocked and exclaimed, "Nascent soul stage thunder tribulation? Someone is undergoing the nascent soul lightning tribulation in the city. Is he crazy?" Although Qin Chuan had never seen a nascent soul stage cultivator undergoing a heavenly tribulation, he knew very well that the destructive power of the nascent soul stage thunder tribulation was extremely terrifying. It was enough to turn the land within 1,000 miles into scorched earth. If this person was really undergoing the heavenly tribulation in the mountain amongst city, the city would suffer heavy losses. Countless people would die under this heavenly tribulation. This heavenly tribulation is indeed the nascent soul stage thunder tribulation, but it's a little strange. Lion Duke frowned. The pressure of this heavenly tribulation is too strong. Lion Duke had also undergone a heavenly tribulation when he became a demon king, so he was very sensitive to the aura of the heavenly tribulation. He could conclude that this heavenly tribulation must be the nascent soul stage thunder tribulation, but the power of this heavenly tribulation was unprecedentedly strong. It was definitely not something that an ordinary golden core stage cultivator could trigger. Suddenly, Lion Duke turned his head and saw Zhongcheng's figure suddenly appear behind him. He anxiously said to Qin Chuan, "Come with me." Hearing Zhongcheng's words, Lion Duke seemed to think of something. His face changed slightly and asked, "Is the person undergoing the heavenly tribulation that little girl?" "It's not just Madam." Zhongcheng had no time to explain. He grabbed Qin Chuan's arm and was about to leave. Hearing Zhongcheng's words, Lion Duke was stunned for a moment, and then suddenly turned his head to look at the sky outside. No wonder he always felt that the pressure of the heavenly tribulation in front of him was a little too strong. It turned out that there was more than one golden core stage cultivator undergoing the heavenly tribulation. It's too much of a coincidence that the heavenly tribulation can happen at the same time. Muttering in a low voice, Lion Duke's figure flickered and disappeared. He had to go and see such a rare miracle. When he was caught by Zhongcheng, Qinchuan instinctively wanted to struggle, but he was no match for Zhongcheng. In the blink of an eye, he was bound by Zhongcheng and could not move. He didn't even have the chance to ask who Zhongcheng was. Whoosh! Zhongcheng took Qinchuan back to Zhong Mansion. He pointed to Zhong Chuyu and Ningya who were standing in the living room and said, "Help them." When Qinchuan saw Ningya and Zhong Chuyu standing together, he couldn't help but show a touch of shock on his face. It turned out that the person who was undergoing the heavenly tribulation was his teacher. However, he was just a foundation establishment cultivator. How could he help in this situation? When this thought appeared in Qinchuan's mind, he also saw the consul's leg meat in Ningya and Zhong Chuyu's hands that were being crazily devoured. In an instant, he understood how to help them. Qinchuan took out the remaining 7 portions of leg meat, then threw them all to Ningya and said loudly, "Teacher, it's all here. Is it enough?" Ningya didn't respond to Qinchuan. She just reached out and grabbed the leg meat thrown by Qinchuan and shared it with Zhong Chuyu. Then they disappeared in a flash. Just when Ningya and Zhong Chuyu left, Lion Baron's figure also appeared in the living room in a flash. He looked at Zhongcheng and said, "I just sensed it. I didn't expect it to be the two of them who were undergoing the heavenly tribulation." Lion Baron really didn't expect that the people who were undergoing the heavenly tribulation would be Ningya and Zhong Chuyu, because he had met Ningya before. Although Ningya was already in the peak gold core realm, there was still a certain distance between her and the heavenly tribulation. Her foundation was not enough. Who would have thought that Ningya and Zhong Chuyu would begin to undergo the heavenly tribulation in the blink of an eye? I didn't expect it either. Zhongcheng smiled bitterly. "It's a long story. Then take your time. The two of them should have gone out of the city. Let's follow them and protect them." Lion Baron laughed. 2 more nascent soul cultivators are about to be born in this world. This is not a trivial matter. While speaking, Lion Baron patted Qinchuan on the shoulder and said to Qinchuan, "Boy, from now on, you can walk sideways in this world. Now there are at least 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 nascent soul cultivators protecting you." 5 nascent soul cultivators. This force gathered together was definitely a powerful force that no one could ignore, and Qinchuan was the center of this force. Chapter 541. Rumble. The aura of the lightning tribulation above the sky had become thicker and stronger. The residents of the city in the middle of the mountain had already fled due to the panic in their hearts. The cultivators, on the other hand, were discussing it animatedly. They were all extremely excited and curious. The Golden Core lightning tribulation was a common lightning tribulation in the cultivation world. Most of the cultivators had seen it before, so it could be said that they had a better understanding of it. The lightning tribulation in front of them, whether it was the pressure or the area it covered, far exceeded that of the Golden Core lightning tribulation. Anyone with a normal brain would think that this must be a lightning tribulation of a higher level than the Golden Core lightning tribulation. Above the Golden Core lightning tribulation was the nascent soul lightning tribulation. This also meant that there would be 1 more nascent soul cultivator in the World Mountain from now on. If these people knew that it was not 1 person who was preparing for the tribulation, but 2 people, they would be so shocked that their eyeballs would pop out. Just as everyone was discussing the sudden appearance of the lightning tribulation above the mountain city, Ningya and Zhong Chuyu, as the parties involved, had already left the mountain city and were flying towards the wilderness in the distance. After they left, the lightning tribulation above the mountain city also moved slowly. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the huge and thick dark clouds, and the momentum was extremely vast. "No, I feel like I can't hold on anymore." Zhong Chuyu's expression suddenly changed. She looked up at the thunderclouds above the sky and said to Nina beside her, "The lightning tribulation is coming. I feel it too." Nina looked at the sky with an extremely dignified expression. "I really don't know whether to thank you or blame you." According to Ningya's original plan, she wanted to try to pass the tribulation 3 years later. Trying to pass the tribulation now had both advantages and disadvantages. The advantage was that she could become a nascent soul cultivator in advance, but the disadvantage was that she was not prepared enough. The pressure of the lightning tribulation would be stronger, and its power would definitely be greater. The difficulty of passing the tribulation would be greatly increased. Once she failed, what awaited her was death. "I should thank you." Zhang Qiyu looked at the leg meat in her hand and said to Ningya, "If you didn't give me these things, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to hold on now. If you really want to say thank you, then say to Qin Chuan." Ningya glanced at the leg meat in her hand. "This is from Qin Chuan." Hearing Ningya mention of Qin Chuan, Zhang Qiyu's face couldn't help showing a complicated expression. She didn't expect that she had already owed Qin Chuan a huge favor before she had even helped Qin Chuan. Boom, boom, boom. The thunder became louder and louder. Ningya and Zhang Qiyu looked up at the thunderclouds in the sky at the same time, waiting for the first thunder tribulation to fall. Of lion's lion to the lion's expression, of lion's lions and lion. Lion shook his head. "This is the first time I've seen such a situation. I don't know anything about it. According to common sense, there are 9 nascent soul stage thunder tribulations. 3 is weak, 6 is strong, and 9 is rare. But looking at the size of the tribulation cloud, their thunder tribulations should be around 6. Will it be dangerous?" Qin Chuan was worried. He didn't know what to do in the face of such a thing. "Everything depends on God's will." Lion comforted Qin Chuan. "With the treasure you gave them, they should be fine." Lion's voice had just fallen when a white-haired old woman suddenly appeared on their left. She looked at Lion with deep eyes and whispered, "Lion, you are still alive? I didn't expect you to still be alive." Lion looked at the old woman and laughed. "I haven't seen you for many years. You're getting uglier." "Oof." The old woman snorted, turned to look at Zhong Cheng, and asked, "Why are there 2 people under the tribulation cloud?" She recognized Zhong Qiyu, but she didn't recognize Ningya, because the 2 of them are going through the tribulation together. Zhong Cheng looked at the old woman. "You'd better not mess around. Our world mountain, now, has 2 more nascent soul stage cultivators. This is a happy thing. Why would I mess around?" The old woman smiled. "I just felt that this thunder tribulation was a bit unusual, so I ran out to see the situation. I didn't expect that there would be 2 little guys going through the tribulation together." Lion pointed at the old woman and said to Qin Chuan, "Do you see that? This is the city lord of the mountain city. Her name is Inshan." Hearing Lion's words, Qin Chuan immediately said respectfully to the old woman, "Junior greets senior." Inshan looked at Qin Chuan for a while, then turned to Lion and asked, "Who is this little guy?" "This is one of our juniors." Lion patted Qin Chuan's shoulder and said to Inshan with a smile, "The 2 under the tribulation cloud are also his seniors." Inshan heard this and looked at Qin Chuan again, but this time her eyes were filled with surprise. It was extremely rare for an ordinary person to have a nascent soul stage cultivator as their senior, and Qin Chuan now had 2. Later, he might have 4. This kind of background would scare people to death. Kacha! Suddenly, a power of thunder as thick as a bucket fell from the tribulation cloud, directly bombarding Ningya and Zhongqiu. The 2 tried their best to resist with their spirit shields, so they were not injured. The thunder tribulation has begun. Zhongcheng looked at Zhongqiu and Ningya nervously. He was even more nervous than when he was going through the tribulation. The first 3 thunder tribulations are generally not very powerful. The power of their first thunder tribulation is comparable to the second thunder tribulation of an ordinary nascent soul stage cultivator. Lion let out a long sigh of relief. Fortunately, this power is not exaggerated. "Big cousin, can you send me near the tribulation cloud?" Qin Chuan looked at the tribulation cloud in front of him with a strange expression and an extremely bold idea jumped out in his heart. Lion looked at Qin Chuan with a puzzled expression and asked, "Why are you going there? Can't you see clearly from here?" The eyesight of cultivators was far superior to that of ordinary people. With Qin Chuan's eyesight, even if he couldn't see very clearly, he could see more or less. At that time, it was because they considered Qin Chuan's eyesight that they stopped here. "No." Qin Chuan shook his head and then said seriously, "I want to try to absorb a trace of the power of the thunder tribulation." Hearing Qin Chuan's words, Lion Ju couldn't help but be stunned. Zhongcheng even reprimanded Qin Chuan. "Nonsense! With your realm, you may not be able to withstand even a thunder tribulation as thick as a strand of hair." If this was the golden core stage thunder tribulation, Qin Chuan wanted to make such an attempt, but this was the nascent soul stage thunder tribulation. Its power was far more than 100 times that of the golden core stage thunder tribulation. With Qin Chuan's current realm, he would definitely be turned into ashes upon contact. Wanting to absorb the power of the thunder tribulation was completely wishful thinking. Chapter 542. Compared to Zhongcheng, Lion Baron obviously knew Qin Chuan better. Since Qin Chuan made this request, he must have some confidence. He looked at Qin Chuan seriously and asked, "Are you really sure? This is not a joke. Please believe me. I won't joke with my life. I'm sure." Qin Chuan replied solemnly. When the thunder tribulation began, he felt his heartbeat accelerate. The thunder-devouring scripture even ran on its own, as if it was extremely eager to get close to the thunder tribulation in the distance. If not, Qin Chuan would not have made such a request. "Lion Baron, are you going to mess around with him?" Zhongcheng frowned and looked at Lion Baron. Qin Chuan was young and had never seen the power of the nascent soul stage thunder tribulation. It was understandable that he would make such a brainless request. However, Lion Baron actually asked Qin Chuan if he was sure. This was very abnormal. Lion Baron looked at Zhongcheng and said, "Qin Chuan's talent rune is thunder attribute, and the cultivation method he cultivates is also a top thunder cultivation method. Since he made this request, he must have felt it. If he misses this opportunity, it may be a great loss for him." "Yes." Qin Chuan nodded and said to Zhongcheng, "Senior, this matter is also an opportunity for me. If I miss it, I will definitely regret it for the rest of my life. Please rest assured, Senior. Since Junior has made a choice, I will naturally bear the consequences." Hearing Qin Chuan's words, Zhongcheng's face couldn't help but show a touch of embarrassment. He had promised Zhong Qiyu that he would protect Qin Chuan. Now that Qin Chuan wanted to take the risk, if he didn't stop Qin Chuan, how would he explain it to Zhong Qiyu if something happened to Qin Chuan? Seeing the embarrassment on Zhongcheng's face, Yinshan smiled and said, "Zhongcheng, we might as well give him a chance. I also want to see what he plans to do." "All right, let's not talk about it anymore. It's settled. I'll bring him over." Lion Baron did not wait for Qin Chuan's response. It pulled him towards the clouds. When they were about 100 meters away from the clouds, Qin Chuan told Lion Baron to stop and land on the ground. After they landed, Qin Chuan said to Lion Duke, "Big cousin, stay away from me. If something happens, I don't want you to get involved." "No need. I'm right beside you." Lion Duke shook his head. "The thunder won't hurt me too much. If something happens to you, I'll be able to save you in time. But if you're far away, it's hard to say." Seeing Lion Duke's good intentions, Qin Chuan no longer insisted. He felt that the thunder-devouring art was running faster and faster. He quickly sat cross-legged on the ground and took the initiative to run the art. Other than that, he did nothing else. Just as Qin Chuan was circulating his cultivation, the second bolt of tribulation lightning had already descended, and it fiercely struck the spirit shield that Ningya and Zhong Qiyu had jointly formed. A violent rumble resounded, and the spirit shield was covered in cracks. When the thunder collapsed, it turned into countless tiny thunder power. A strand of thunder power as thick as a strand of hair seemed to be attracted. It slowly drifted towards Qin Chuan, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground. It went into Qin Chuan's forehead. Buzz! When a strand of thunder power entered his body, Qin Chuan's body trembled slightly. His face suddenly turned pale, and he looked like he was in extreme pain. Lion Duke couldn't help but be surprised when he saw this. Although he had expected this, he still found it unbelievable when he saw Qin Chuan withstanding the thunder power with his own eyes. Although the thunder power was only the size of a strand of hair, it was still a nascent soul-stage thunder tribulation. In the distant sky, Zhong Cheng and Yin Shan, who had been paying attention to Qin Chuan's movements, also noticed that Qin Chuan had absorbed a strand of thunder power into his body. Their expressions became a little strange. This young man is not simple. Yin Shan chuckled. It's no wonder that so many of you are giving him special treatment. Hearing Yin Shan's words, Zhongcheng nodded gently and said, he is indeed a rare genius. If he doesn't die, he will definitely become a great person in the future. Although Qin Chuan had already mentally prepared himself, when the thunder power entered his body, the intense pain almost caused him to faint. At this moment, Qin Chuan's body was like a stone mill. The thunder-devouring art was madly circulating, pushing the stone mill in an attempt to crush and absorb that trace of tribulation lightning energy. However, even though there was only a small amount of tribulation lightning energy, it didn't move at all no matter how hard he tried to crush it. In fact, it even faintly showed signs of breaking the stone mill. Just as Qin Chuan felt that he couldn't hold on any longer, a wisp of green smoke suddenly floated over, enveloping the power of tribulation lightning. A moment later, the power of tribulation lightning that was as solid as a boulder melted away like snow. This green smoke. Is it the runic sword? Qin Chuan was extremely shocked. He didn't expect the runic sword to help him again at this critical moment. In the face of Qin Chuan's shock, the runic sword proudly spun a few rounds in Qin Chuan's mind, as if telling Qin Chuan, this is just a small matter, don't be shy. Just when Qin Chuan was about to respond to the runic sword, another strand of thunder power entered his body. However, it was melted by the green smoke in a breath's time and turned into nutrients in Qin Chuan's body. Rumble. When the fifth thunder tribulation fell, Ningya and Zhongqiyu were already covered in wounds and scorched black. The moment the power of the thunder tribulation poured into their bodies, they immediately swallowed the leg meat in their mouths into their stomachs and frantically absorbed the energy in the leg meat. While resisting the power of the thunder tribulation, they were also healing the wounds on their bodies. In just a short while, the two of them had already eaten all the leg meat they got from Qin Chuan. They would have to rely on their own strength to resist the next thunder power. At this time, Zhongcheng and Yin Shan, who were far away, were completely unaware of their predicament. This was because all their attention was on Qin Chuan. If I'm not wrong, this is already the ninth one. Yin Shan looked at Qin Chuan, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground with an indescribable shock in her eyes. Qin Chuan was extremely lucky to be able to absorb one thunder power, but Qin Chuan continuously absorbed 9. This wasn't just luck, it was terrifying. This kid is simply heaven-defying. Zhongcheng could be considered to have seen a lot in his life and had met many young and promising geniuses. However, this was the first time he had seen a monstrous genius like Qin Chuan. That's right, in Zhongcheng's eyes, Qin Chuan was an out-and-out monster. If he wasn't a monster, how could Qin Chuan continuously absorb 9 thunder power? Even a golden core cultivator might not dare to do such a thing. Chapter 543. When Qin Chuan had refined the power of the 9th lightning tribulation, he finally stopped. It was not because he wanted to stop, but because the runic sword had taken back the wisp of green smoke. Without the help of the green smoke, it would be a joke if he wanted to continue refining the power of the lightning tribulation. Phew! Qin Chuan let out a long sigh of relief. He turned to look at Lion Duke and said, "Thank you for protecting me, big cousin. My cultivation is over. If you didn't finish your cultivation, I would have been scared to death." Lion Duke looked at Qin Chuan strangely. How did you manage to absorb so much lightning tribulation? If Qin Chuan only absorbed a trace of lightning tribulation, Lion Duke could still accept it. But Qin Xuan absorbed 9 lightning tribulations in a row. This made Lion Duke feel very incredulous. Facing Lion Duke's question, Qin Xuan smiled and said, "This is just rumble." Just as Qin Xuan was replying to Lion Duke, an extremely violent roar suddenly came from the sky. It was as if tens of thousands of tons had exploded at the same time in the blink of an eye. A gust of wind suddenly rose between heaven and earth, whistling wantonly. Lion Duke immediately reached out and grabbed Qin Xuan. He then took Qin Xuan and retreated far away. They retreated nearly 10,000 meters away from the center of the explosion. Qin Xuan looked at the gloomy sky and asked Lion Duke what just happened. Until now, Qin Xuan's head was still buzzing. Lion Duke looked ahead with a solemn expression and said to Qin Xuan, "This is their 6th lightning tribulation. The power of this tribulation is beyond my expectations." Lion Duke knew that Ningya and Zhong Qiyu's last lightning tribulation would be extremely powerful, but he didn't expect it to be so terrifying. It was enough to destroy the heavens and earth. Even he had to avoid it. Hearing Lion Duke's words, Qin Xuan's face suddenly showed a touch of nervousness. He asked, "Then how are they now?" "I don't know." Lion Duke shook his head. "The aura of heaven and earth in front is completely chaotic. Before it returns to normal, I don't know the specific situation there. But the lightning tribulation has passed. If they're not dead, then they should welcome a new life later." Qin Xuan heard this and wanted to continue to ask. At this moment, there was a burst of babies' laughter between heaven and earth. The gloomy sky also cleared up. Seeing this scene, Lion Duke smiled slightly and said to Qin Xuan, "You can rest assured that the two are fine. They have formed their nascent souls." Amidst the clouds and divine light that filled the sky, Ningya and Zhong Qiyu sat cross-legged facing each other. Both of them had extremely gentle expressions on their faces. Above their heads, 2 chubby palm-sized babies were frolicking and playing, their laughter ceaseless. After playing around for a while, the babies seemed to be a little tired. They dizzily flew towards the figures under their feet, and with a whoosh, they drilled into their heads and disappeared. At the same time, Ningya and Zhong Qiyu slowly opened their eyes and looked at each other. Their eyes were full of joy after surviving a disaster. "Congratulations." Ningya smiled slightly and said to Zhong Qiyu, "Now you are a nascent soul cultivator. You can also be the ancestor of this world." Hearing Ningya's words, Zhong Qiyu chuckled and responded, "In the future, you are no longer Teacher Ning, but Dean Ning. Speaking of which, it's time for you to take over your teacher's class." Just as the two were talking, Qin Xuan and the others also arrived. Feeling the aura of the nascent soul cultivators, Yin Shan smiled and said to Ningya and Zhong Qiyu, "Congratulations to Taoist Ning and Taoist Zhong for reaching the nascent soul stage." "Congratulations." Lion Duke laughed and said, "Our nascent soul cultivator family has 2 new members." Zhongcheng was also very excited and happy. He repeatedly said to the two, "Congratulations." As the only junior present, Qin Xuan's little mouth was as sweet as honey. He giggled and said, "Congratulations on reaching the nascent soul stage. Teacher, congratulations to this senior. Let's celebrate together." "Thank you, Taoist friends." Ningya smiled and said to everyone, "When we return to the mountain city, Qiyu and I will definitely host a banquet to entertain everyone." Ningya originally planned to return to the Black Moon Combat Academy today, but because she had just reached the nascent soul stage, she had to stay in the mountain city to stabilize her realm. Just as Ningya was greeting everyone, Zhong Qiyu's gaze was fixed on Qin Xuan. The expression on her face was particularly subtle. Facing Zhong Qiyu's sparkling eyes, Qin Xuan felt a little pressured. Not to mention him, no matter who it was, being stared at by a nascent soul cultivator like this would make them feel uncomfortable. While everyone was talking and laughing, they also noticed the strange atmosphere between Qin Xuan and Zhong Qiyu. The scene suddenly became quiet, under the subtle gazes of everyone. Zhong Qiyu sighed lightly and said to Qin Xuan, "Young friend, I feel a sense of familiarity with you. and it's as if we've known each other for a long time. I want to take you in as my godson." When Lion Duke and Inshan heard Zhong Chuyu's words, they felt particularly strange. Ningya and Zhong Cheng, who knew the reason, looked at Zhong Chuyu with extremely complicated gazes. As for Qin Chuan, he was a little confused. Why did someone want to be his godmother out of the blue? Although Qin Chuan didn't mind having a nascent soul stage backer, the feeling of being someone's godson was really too strange. Seeing that Qin Chuan didn't speak, Zhong Chuyu pursed her lips and asked, "You don't want to?" "That's not it." Qin Chuan grinned. "It's my honor that Senior, a nascent soul stage cultivator, is willing to accept me as your godson. It's just that I've only met Senior for the first time. Isn't it a little too hasty to do this?" While speaking, Qin Chuan looked at Ningya for help. He knew that Ningya and Zhong Chuyu must know each other and wanted Ningya to help him. However, Ningya didn't seem to notice Qin Chuan's gaze and had no intention of helping Qin Chuan at all. Qin Chuan accepted. Zhong Cheng sighed and said to Qin Chuan, "This is a good thing for you. As for the reason, you'll naturally know in the future." Lion Duke looked at Zhong Chuyu and Zhong Cheng with a playful gaze. Previously, he felt that the relationship between these two people from the Zhong family was somewhat inexplicable. Now, it seemed that their concern for Qin Chuan was more than inexplicable. It was simply insane. Once Qin Chuan acknowledged Zhong Chuyu as his godmother, it was equivalent to having two more nascent soul cultivators backing him up. He would definitely be able to do whatever he wanted in the World Mountain. Seeing that Qin Chuan was still unwilling to speak, Zhong Chuyu was a little disappointed. "Then forget it, I agree." Qin Chuan coughed lightly and said a little bashfully, "That is godmother good." Chapter 544. When she heard Qin Chuan call her godmother, Zhong Chuyu almost couldn't hold back her tears. Fortunately, she controlled her emotions in time and softly replied, "I heard you." Seeing Zhong Chuyu on the verge of tears, Qin Chuan couldn't help but mutter in his heart. He really didn't understand why Zhong Chuyu was so emotional. However, he didn't notice that Zhong Cheng and Ningya's eyes also turned red for Zhong Chuyu. It was said that cultivators wouldn't easily be moved and wouldn't shed tears. However, when it really touched the softest part of their hearts, what was the difference between a cultivator and an ordinary person? Under the gazes of the crowd from afar, Qin Chuan's group of 6 instantly disappeared. The next moment, they reappeared in the city lord's mansion in the mountain city. "Everyone, please give this old woman this opportunity to be the host." Inshan smiled at everyone. In the mountain city, there is absolutely no chef better than the city lord's mansion. Today's banquet will definitely satisfy everyone. As the city lord of the mountain city, Inshan invited everyone to the city lord's mansion as guests. Naturally, no one could refuse. Whether the food was delicious or not wasn't important. What was important was to make friends. As the only junior present, Qin Chuan naturally didn't have the qualifications to speak. Under Inshan's lead, everyone walked into the city lord's mansion's living room. Compared to the technological feel of the other places, the city lord's mansion's living room was more simple. From the floor to the furniture, everything was carved from stone. Everyone took their seats. Qin Chuan sensibly stood behind Ningya and didn't sit with the others. After all, everyone present was a nascent soul cultivator. It was necessary to show respect. Today is the day that fellow Ning and fellow Zhong advance to the nascent soul stage. It is this old woman's honor to be able to invite everyone to the city lord's mansion. Inshan smiled and turned her gaze to Ningya. This old woman is familiar with fellow Zhong, but this is the first time we've met fellow Ning. May I ask where fellow Ning is from? Ningya smiled and replied, "I'm from the Star Dragon Federation's Black Moon Combat Academy. I'm Qin Chuan's teacher and Chuyu's friend." Hearing Ningya's answer, a look of understanding appeared on Inshan's face. She smiled and said, "So, it's a friend from the Star Dragon Federation. Nice to meet you." While everyone was chatting in the living room, Qin Chuan quietly turned on his optical computer and started replying to his emails. "I'm at the city lord's mansion. I'm fine. Why did you go to the city lord's mansion? Someone was undergoing a tribulation just now. Do you know who it was? It's my teacher and my godmother. The two of them passed the nascent soul lightning tribulation together. Seeing the email sent by Qin Chuan, Yarao, who almost instantly replied to Qin Chuan's message, was stunned. She knew who was Qin Chuan's teacher, but where did this godmother of Qin Chuan come from? When Yarao sent another message to ask who was Qin Chuan's godmother, she didn't receive any reply from Qin Chuan. At this time, Qin Chuan was pouring tea for his four elders. He simply didn't have time to look at his optical computer's mailbox. Yinshan looked at Qin Chuan, who was pouring tea. After pondering for a moment, she took out a brocade box from her storage ring and handed it to Qin Chuan. After that, she said to Qin Chuan, "This is the first time we're meeting. As an elder, I should have carefully prepared a gift for you. However, today's meeting was somewhat rushed, so I only have this on me." Seeing this, Qin Chuan immediately said to Yinshan, "Senior is too polite. As long as it's a gift from Senior, this junior will like it." A gift from a nascent soul realm cultivator was definitely not ordinary. Even if it was ordinary, Qin Chuan absolutely wouldn't dislike it. He put down a teapot and took the gift from Yinshan. He bowed and said, "Many thanks for Senior's gift." Seeing Qin Chuan accept the gift, Yinshan smiled and said, "Go back and open it. Maybe you'll like it." When Qin Chuan left the city lord's mansion, he still felt that it was unreal. He always believed that one day he would be able to sit on the same level as nascent soul realm cultivators and become one of them. However, he never thought that he would be able to sit and eat at the same table as 5 nascent soul realm cultivators. Nascent soul realm cultivators, Qin Chuan muttered in a low voice. A look of yearning appeared on his face. He also yearned to have the status and strength of a nascent soul realm cultivator. That way, some things would be much simpler. "Qin Chuan, come here." Just as Qin Chuan's mind was wandering, Zhong Qiyu called out to Qin Chuan. Qin Chuan heard her and walked over. "Godmother, you're looking for me?" Qin Chuan looked at Zhong Qiyu. "If you have any instructions, just let me know." "I don't have any instructions for you. I just want to give you a gift." Zhong Qiyu smiled slightly and took out a rectangular box and handed it to Qin Chuan. "Open it and see if you like it." Qin Chuan took the box and opened it. Looking at the 2 long swords, one blue and one green, in the box, his eyes couldn't help but flash with a touch of surprise. This pair of swords is called Wind and Thunder Swords. It's a pair of best quality magic weapons. I think you should like it. Zhong Qiyu saw the surprise on Qin Chuan's face and was very happy in her heart. As for the wonderful use of this Wind and Thunder Swords, I've already written it in the manual in the box. Go back and have a good look. Qin Chuan nodded and said to Zhong Qiyu happily, "Thank you for the gift, Godmother. I really like it." Ever since the bronze sword given to him by Lion Duke broke, he hadn't encountered a suitable weapon. This pair of Wind and Thunder Swords was exactly what he wanted. If he had a pair of swords like this in the 50 versus 50 arena, the battle would have been much easier. When Zhong Qiyu heard Qin Chuan say, "I really like it," instead of "as long as it's a gift from Senior, this junior will like it," she was satisfied. "Qin Chuan, this old man also has a gift for you." Zhong Chung stepped forward and took out a crystal bottle and handed it to Qin Chuan. "This old man doesn't have any valuable collection. Only this bottle of heavenly pure water can help you refine your body and help you go further in your future cultivation." "Thank you, Senior." Qin Chuan knew the preciousness of the heavenly pure water and quickly accepted it. "Kid, you've earned a lot today." Lion Duke laughed and said to Qin Chuan, "Not to mention that you have 2 more nascent soul stage elders. You also got such a precious gift. If others have half of your life, they will wake up laughing in their dreams." Ningya, who was standing on the side, smiled and didn't say anything. At first, she was worried that Zhong Qiyu would be too good to Qin Chuan and spoil Qin Chuan too much. Now it seemed that Zhong Qiyu still had some sense of propriety. "Qin Chuan, during this time, I will stabilize my realm in your godmother's house. I will not leave the Gem Mountain for the time being. If you encounter anything in the demon realm, you can contact us." Ningya smiled slightly and said to Qin Chuan, I didn't dare to go too deep into the GM mountain before, but now there's nothing to be afraid of. With the three of us working together, even if the Demon Emperor wants to embarrass you, he will have to think twice. Chapter 545. On the endless prairie, Qin Chuan was sitting on the back of a big black bull, leisurely moving forward. His eyes were casually looking at the scenery all around, appearing very leisurely. Is this the Demon Realm? The scenery looks really good. In Star Dragon Federation, whether it was inside or outside the city, the aura of science and technology was extremely strong. Airships, shuttles, intercity tracks, and so on could be seen everywhere. Everywhere, one could see the development of science and technology. Very few natural scenery could be seen. But the Demon Realm was not the same. Although the Demon Realm also had high technology, but the ecological environment was relatively maintained in its original state. There was no excessive development and destruction. Overall, the beauty of the scenery was better than Star Dragon Federation. The scenery of the Demon Realm is really good. On the back of the Black Bull beside Qin Chuan, Lion Baron was lazily lying on top of it with the grass in his mouth. In this half a year, I went to many places in Star Dragon Federation. No matter where I went, I always took a car or an airship. All the buildings I saw were very high-tech. The first time I saw them, it was somewhat novel, but after seeing more, it became boring. What you said is somewhat reasonable. In any case, I really don't feel anything when I see those tall buildings now. Qin Chuan chuckled. The natural scenery is more attractive. Qin Chuan, if you like the scenery of the Demon Realm, then you can live in the Demon Realm. I can take you to visit the Demon Realm and see every scenery of the Demon Realm. In front of Qin Chuan, Yaorao was sitting on the back of the Black Bull. She was holding her chin with one hand and blinking her eyes while looking at Qin Chuan. Having heard what was said, Qin Chuan faintly smiled, then shook his head and said, "If you want to live in the Demon Realm, then forget it. Although the Demon Realm is good, but after all, it is not my home." Although Qin Chuan knew that there were also human race living in the Demon Realm, but those human race had been living in the Demon Realm for thousands of years, and not the human race who came to the Demon Realm later on. These two kinds of people were very different in nature. If you don't want to, then forget it. Yaorao curled her lips. You speak as if I am very willing to be your tour guide. Ma Jiawen looked at the unhappy face of Yaorao. Then with a smile, she changed the subject and said, "If we continue forward for another 1,000 miles, then we will reach the relay station of our Heavenly Horse Tribe. At that time, we can directly ride Heavenly Horse Tribe to go to Celestial Monster Plane." Hearing Ma Jiawen's words, Qin Chuan asked curiously, "Riding a Pegasus? Are you from the Heavenly Horse Tribe?" "Of course not." Ma Jiawen chuckled and explained to Qin Chuan, "Just like the black bulls we are riding, they aren't from a barbarian bull tribe. They are just a means of transportation. Our Heavenly Horse Division specially raises heavenly horses as mounts. These heavenly horses don't have high intelligence and are just ordinary creatures." Qin Chuan nodded in understanding. Then he began to look forward to it. He had been on a flying shuttle and a flying ship since he was young, but he had never been on a Pegasus. Seeing Qin Chuan's looking forward to it expression, Yaorao curled her lips and said, "Isn't it just Heavenly Horse? If you like it, then I will directly ask Jiawen to gift you one." Hearing Yaorao, Ma Jiawen was somewhat helpless. Riding Heavenly Horse Tribe was an extremely rare thing in their Heavenly Horse Tribe. It was very rare in the outside world, but now Yaorao wanted to gift one to Qin Chuan. If she didn't agree, then wouldn't she not give Yaorao face? But fortunately, Qin Chuan saw Ma Jiawen's awkward expression, so he waved his hand and said with a smile, "Gift me one is fine. I just want to experience it. If we're talking about speed, then I think our Star Dragon Federation's flying shuttle is faster." The topic of gifting Heavenly Horse came to an end. Qin Chuan somewhat curiously asked, "If you demon race see me, a human, appear here, wouldn't you attack me? If you came here alone, then naturally it would be somewhat dangerous, but don't forget, you are together with us." Yaorao looked at Qin Chuan and said, "With this princess here, who dares to touch a single strand of your hair?" Qin Chuan felt that what Yao Rao said was reasonable, but he always felt something was wrong, and he always had a restless feeling in his heart. Little girl, does your father know about the matter of you inviting Qin Chuan to Heavenly Monster Mountain as a guest? Lion Duke looked at Yao Rao and said, "Don't let us get beaten up again when we arrive at the entrance. My father, Emperor, naturally knows." Yao Rao nodded her head and said, "After I returned from unfettered secret realm, I told my father, Emperor, about this matter. My father, Emperor, agreed. He also wants to meet Qin Chuan, this handsome young man from human race." Hearing Yao Rao, Lion Duke laughed, then turned towards Qin Chuan and said, "You brat have to be careful. With my understanding of that Yao Feng, he will definitely set a trap for you." Seeing Lion Duke solemnly vowed, Qin Chuan couldn't help but somewhat curiously said, "With the honor of Demon Emperor, he shouldn't be scheming against me. This junior, right? Lion King, don't talk nonsense." Yao Rao glared at Lion Duke and said, "My father, Emperor, won't scheme against Qin Chuan." "Haha, I've already said it here. When the time comes, Qin Chuan's situation will definitely not be too good." Lion Duke said with certainty, "Little girl, if you are not convinced, then how about I make a bet with you?" "Okay." Yao Rao immediately agreed. "You say, what are we betting? Let's bet whether your father, Emperor, will make things difficult for Qin Chuan or not. If I lose, I will accept your order and help you complete one thing." Lion Duke mischievously smiled. "Then if you lose, what do you plan to do?" Having heard Lion Duke, Yao Rao thought for a moment and said, "If I lose, I will also accept your order." "What a joke! I'm a dignified demon king. How can you compare with me?" Lion Duke sneered. "You think too highly of yourself." For others, Yao Rao was the princess of demon race, and her status was noble, but for Lion Duke, Yao Rao was nothing. At most, she was just a junior with a little background and nothing more. Upon seeing this, Yao Rao also knew that her condition was somewhat inappropriate, so she changed her words. "If I lose, then I will give Qin Chuan a drop of phoenix blood." Hearing Yao Rao, Lion Duke's complexion suddenly became extremely splendid. He somewhat speechlessly said, "You little girl really know how to calculate, knowing that you might lose, so you put the condition on Qin Chuan. In any case, I won't get any benefit." Qin Chuan also somewhat didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Originally, he was just watching the fun, but the result was he was inexplicably dragged into this matter. "Our bet is originally related to Qin Chuan. If my father Emperor really makes things difficult for Qin Chuan, then I naturally should give some compensation to Qin Chuan, and the condition of this bet will naturally be implemented on Qin Chuan." Yao Rao spoke with conviction. In any case, she was unwilling to give any benefit to Lion Duke. "Fine, this old man will eat a loss." Lion Duke didn't dawdle. "This time, little girl, you will lose. Your understanding of your father Emperor is still too little." Ha ha! Chapter 546. Under the setting sun, Ma Jiawen pointed towards a huge castle in front of them and said to everyone, "That is our Heavenly Horse Tribe's relay station." Looking at that tall castle, Qin Chuan asked with shocked expression, "This is the relay station you're talking about? This is clearly a castle." Hearing Qin Chuan, Ma Jiawen chuckled and said, "This was indeed a relay station originally, but because too many people were passing through here, it was simply expanded to its current appearance, but I still like to call this relay station." Yao Rao continued from Ma Jiawen's words, "Although this is called relay station, but inside it is fully equipped. Everything you can think of is here. Today we will rest here and experience the local conditions and customs of this place. Then we will set out early tomorrow morning." Qin Chuan naturally didn't have any objection regarding the proposal of Yao Rao. This time he had come to Demon World with the intention of traveling all over the place, so he naturally didn't have any objection if he could experience the local conditions and customs of this place. Not waiting for everyone to approach the relay station, the guards of the relay station came to conduct routine inspection, but when they saw Yao Rao and Ma Jiawen riding on the back of the ox, they immediately knelt down on one knee and respectfully shouted, "Greetings, Your Highness Princess, Your Highness Saintess." "You all get up," Yao Rao said to the guards. "Notify the relay station. Arrange for rooms for us according to the standard of this empress. Yes. The guards stood up. Then one of them went to notify the relay station, while the rest of the guards went to protect Yaorao and carefully guard against the surroundings. Seeing this scene, Qin Chuan somewhat curiously asked Yaorao, "How do they know your identity? If they only looked at your appearance, then wouldn't that be too careless?" At that time, when these guards had approached, almost at the first moment they had knelt down in front of Yaorao, could it be that these people didn't need to distinguish the identity of Yaorao? Weren't they afraid if she was a fake? Hearing Qin Chuan's question, Yaorao chuckled, then said to Qin Chuan, "A person's appearance may be similar or even imitate, but aura won't, especially the aura of our imperial family. These guards didn't recognize who I am, rather recognized the aura of my body. After confirming the royal aura on my body, it won't be hard to confirm my identity." Upon hearing this, Qin Chuan couldn't help but reveal a hint of sudden realization. It turned out that these guards didn't recognize Yaorao's identity. Rather, they recognized the imperial aura on Yaorao's body. In our Yao clan, we usually rely on aura to distinguish a person's identity. Just like the aura of our royal family, it's strong and domineering, but also tolerant and open-minded. It's the aura of a true emperor. Yaorao very proudly said to Qin Chuan, "After they sense my aura, they naturally want to worship me from the bottom of their heart." Qin Chuan was stunned when he heard this. Strong reporting and magnanimous? Why didn't he feel it at all? Seeing the questioning expression on Qin Chuan's face, Yaorao somewhat shyly said, "Do you think I am deceiving you? The reason you can't sense it is because you are a human. I am not questioning you. I just think it's a bit exaggerated." Qin Chuan grinned and said, "This is just like the perfume of our human clan. If a person frequently sprays a perfume and the surrounding people become familiar with it, then as long as they smell this perfume, they will naturally know who that person is. I'm talking about aura, not smell." Yaorao angrily said, "What are you thinking in your head? I am just making an analogy, that's all." Qin Chuan chuckled. "Don't be angry, of course I know there's a difference between aura and smell. I also didn't say you have any special smell. Bastard." When Qin Chuan and Yaorao were bickering, Ma Jiawen had helpless expression. She discovered that as long as Yaorao was together with Qin Chuan, her mood would never be normal. On one side, Lion Baron was happily looking at Qin Chuan and Yaorao bickering, and on the other side, he was sighing that being young was really good. When they arrived in front of the relay station, and after clearly seeing the scale of the relay station, Qin Chuan couldn't help but said to everyone, "If you didn't tell me this is a relay station, then I would have thought this is some aristocrat's castle." Having heard what was said, Ma Jiawen faintly smiled, then said to Qin Chuan, "Let's go. I will take you to see the inside environment of this castle-like relay station. You will definitely be surprised." Under the guidance of the guard, everyone smoothly entered through the gate of the relay station. After seeing the inside environment of the relay station, Qin Chuan was stunned. This is small world fragment. Qin Chuan was dumbstruck. He had never thought that the inside of this relay station was unexpectedly built inside a small world fragment. Ma Jiawen nodded her head, then said to Qin Chuan, "We didn't see incorrectly. This is indeed a small world fragment, but correctly speaking, it should be a broken small world." Hearing Ma Jiawen, Qin Chuan sighed and said, "Awesome, truly a big deal, ah." From the outside, the size of the relay station was roughly 10 square kilometers, not particularly big, but from the inside, one couldn't see the end of this relay station. There were high-rise buildings everywhere, and all kinds of birds and beasts were shuttling back and forth. Qin Chuan even felt as if he had arrived at a certain medium-sized city of Star Dragon Federation. From the beginning to the completion of the construction of this relay station, the total area is 8,000 square kilometers. It has everything. Ma Jiawen said to Qin Chuan with a smile, "Welcome to Pegasus Relay Station." Hearing Ma Jiawen, Qin Chuan grinned and said, "You call such a big place as Relay Station. It is very excessive. Your Highness the Princess." The towering guard slowly walked over, knelt down on one knee in front of Yaorao, and said respectfully, "Station Master has already prepared a place for you and your friends to rest. Please follow me." "Let's go," Yarao said to everyone. "Let's go to the place to rest first, then wait until the evening to stroll around here." Who? A huge white bird descended from the sky and landed in front of everyone. This bird's body was huge, and unexpectedly there was a villa on its back. Seeing this, Qin Chuan was dumbstruck. "This is our Pegasus relay station's characteristic flying home," Ma Zhen introduced to Qin Chuan. "Don't think that this villa is on the bird's back, but is quite stable. You absolutely won't feel any vibration or shaking inside. Simply awesome." Qin Chuan really didn't know how to describe his mood at this time. He felt as if he was a countryman entering a city for the first time. Everything he saw felt fresh. Qin Chuan followed everyone to the bird's back and entered the villa, then sat down on the sofa in the living room. Through the window of the living room, he could see that the ground was getting farther and farther away from them. But the living room was very stable. Just like Ma Jiawen said, he couldn't feel any vibration or shaking. For a moment, Qin Chuan was full of expectations for his next trip to Demon Realm. Chapter 547. Who? The flying bird slowly landed on top of a building. Then Qin Chuan followed everyone down from the back of the bird. Looking all around, he discovered that there were a lot of flying homes like the one they were riding. "Let's go, everyone follow me." As the host, Ma Jiawen walked in the front, leading everyone. As for the guards, they stayed in the same place and didn't follow everyone. "This building is round, the middle is empty, so we will go to our room from the middle. Now I will take you to see our special elevator." Hearing Ma Jiawen, Qin Chuan pointed towards that huge ancient tree in front of them and said to Ma Jiawen, "I noticed this big tree just a moment ago. This should be the special elevator you were talking about." "You're very smart." Yarao chuckled, then said to Qin Chuan, "Do you see those long vines hanging down from that big tree? Elevator is your Star Dragon Federation's term. Here we call it tree ladder." While speaking, everyone had already arrived at the side of that big tree. Ma Jiawen grabbed a long vine, then said to Qin Chuan, "Grab the tree ladder if you want to go to that floor. Then when you arrive, gently pull the vine and you'll be able to go." Seeing Ma Jiawen tied the long vine to her waist, Qin Chuan also grabbed a long vine and tied it to his waist. After everyone was tied, Ma Jiawen took the lead and jumped down. After Ma Jiawen jumped down, the weight of her body pulled the long vine to move downwards. Seeing this, everyone also followed and jumped down. Qin Chuan looked all around with extremely novel expression. This kind of feeling was really very wonderful, completely different from the feeling of riding the elevator. When they arrived at the 80th floor, Ma Jiawen lightly pulled the long vine. Then the long vine stopped falling. Then Ma Jiawen's body was put down from the platform in front of them. Seeing this scene, Qin Chuan also learned to pull the long vine. That long vine tied to his waist produced a pushing force, sending him to the platform in front of them. After Qin Chuan landed on the platform, that long vine automatically untied and withdrew. The whole process was extremely natural. Qin Chuan looked at the long vine leaving, then said to everyone beside him, "Does this big tree have its own thoughts? It's really amazing. There are many of these trees in our demon realm. They are highly intelligent plants." Yarao said to Qin Chuan, "It can also be considered as working because its body is too big. The amount of energy it needs every day is too much, and relying on itself to absorb energy is simply not enough. So it must rely on external force to supplement. So it has become our demon world's tree ladder. It provides us with convenience, and we provide it with the energy it needs to survive." Hearing the explanation of Yarao, Qin Chuan's face couldn't help but reveal a hint of astonishment, as he had never thought that this was the origin of the tree ladder. This is the law of survival of nature. If you want to gain something, you must pay a price. Lion Duke chuckled. If this tree doesn't want to die, then it has to work to earn the energy it needs every day. If it doesn't want to work, I don't think anyone in the demon realm would be willing to raise it for nothing. When Qin Chuan heard this, he asked curiously, "Can the tree ladder transform into a human like you guys?" "It's very difficult. Lion Duke sighed and said, "There are countless demon race in demon world, and only demon race with high intelligence have the possibility to cultivate and have the opportunity to transform into a human form. Although Tree Ladder also has high intelligence, but the energy it needs to transform into a human form is too huge. Perhaps it might need to go through thousands of years of accumulation before it can succeed. So that's how it is." Qin Chuan glanced at that huge tree trunk and said with emotion, "The path of cultivation, no matter who it is for, it is an extremely difficult matter. You don't need to feel pity for Tree Ladder," Ma Jiawen said to Qin Chuan. "Once Tree Ladder cultivates into a human form, it will become Demon King and will immediately surpass all living beings, so harsh conditions is a normal matter." Qin Chuan looked at Ma Jiawen with extreme surprise, then again looked at Tree Ladder. No wonder this fellow's cultivation was so difficult. As it turned out, it was actually a step to heaven. While everyone was talking, they had already entered the room prepared for them by the relay station. The room was very big, and the decoration and furnishings were also extremely luxurious. The materials used were also extremely exquisite. It had the simple atmosphere of demon race, and also the exquisite elegance of human race. When this place was built, many things of human race were referenced, so you should feel very familiar with it. Yarao walked to the sofa and sat down, then said to Qin Chuan, "This place is the closest place to Jia Mountain, and also the place where the aura of human race is the densest in the entire demon world. Wait until you go deep into demon world, then you won't be able to see this kind of place." Qin Chuan curiously looked all around, then asked Yarao, "Are there any human race in this place?" "There are, but not many," Yarao replied. "Majority of the human race here are from Jia Mountain. Only a small part of them are local human race. Regarding these human race, our demon race's attitude is still relatively mild. Jia Mountain, as the place where demon race and human race coexist, the relationship between human and demon race was relatively harmonious, unlike Star Dragon Federation's human race and Demon World's demon race. Merely, what made Qin Chuan more curious was how to distinguish where the other came from. With regards to Qin Chuan's question, Yarao also didn't know how to answer. After thinking for a little bit, she replied, "Actually, this can also be considered relatively simple. From the expression and some body language, it can be seen. Just like the human race of Jia Mountain, when they see demon race, their behavior is very normal. But when the human race of Star Dragon Federation see demon race, they will generally unconsciously reveal hatred and killing intent, which can be very clearly felt." Hearing Yarao's explanation, Qin Chuan nodded his head in understanding. He felt that what Yarao said was somewhat reasonable. After all, it was impossible for normal human race of Star Dragon Federation to come to Demon World. If they really came, then they would certainly be very careful, and when they encountered demon race, they would certainly be very vigilant and would very easily reveal their identity. "Originally, I was worried about your performance, but it seems you are not worried about your identity being known by others." Looking at Qin Chuan, Yarao curiously asked, "Aren't you afraid of being attacked by the demon race here?" Having heard what was said, Qin Chuan chuckled. "It's not that I'm not afraid. Rather, I don't think there is any need to be afraid. After all, my big cousin is here. He will certainly protect me. Right, big cousin?" Lion Duke, who was sitting at the side, snorted upon hearing Qin Chuan's words, which could be considered as a response. "Well, let's in the chat here. Everyone take a good rest, and wait until the evening when we go out for a stroll." Yarao stood up and said to Qin Chuan, "Tonight there will be a bonfire party. The scene will be particularly lively. We must not miss it." Chapter 548. After Yarao and Ma Jiawen left, Lion Duke chuckled and asked Qin Chuan, "How is it? How do you feel?" Qin Chuan seriously pondered for a bit, then replied, "I feel very special. Overall, it makes me feel comfortable. Now you feel comfortable, but later you may not feel comfortable." Lion Duke said to Qin Chuan, "The attitude of Demon Clan of this heavenly horse station towards human race can be considered friendly, but in Demon World, especially in Heavenly Demon Plane, it is not like this, so you better be mentally prepared. Understand? Before I made a bet with Yaorao on the road that they will make things difficult for you. It was not a joke. Having heard what was said, Qin Chuan solemnly nodded his head and said, I will be careful. Thank you, big cousin, for your reminder. I'm going back to my room to rest. You youngsters don't need to inform me when you go out to play in the evening. Lion Duke yawned. I am old, so I don't want to get involved in the matters of you youngsters. Before 6 o'clock in the evening, Qin Chuan was pulled away from the room by Yao Rao and Ma Jiaowen, who were in an excited state. Walking on the way to the bonfire party, Qin Chuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he said to Yao Rao, Pay attention to your image. This dignified princess is pulling a grown man on the road. What kind of scandal is that? Idiot, can't you see the thing on my face? Yao Rao pointed at the veil on her face and said to Qin Chuan, This veil has the ability to obscure my appearance and cover my aura, so no one will recognize who I am. Qin Chuan was somewhat speechless. No one knows who you are, so you can act recklessly? Don't talk nonsense. Yao Rao rolled her eyes at Qin Chuan. Hurry up and go, otherwise there won't be any good seats. Qin Chuan doubtfully raised his head and looked at the artificial small sun in the sky, then said to Yao Rao, It is barely 6 o'clock, and there won't be any seats. Aya, why are you talking so much nonsense? Yao Rao somewhat disdainfully looked at Qin Chuan. If you continue to be long-winded, then there really won't be any seat left. Ma Jiaowen looked at Qin Chuan and Yao Rao, who were quarreling all the way, and somewhat helplessly shook her head. Now she felt that the top of her head was particularly bright, just like a light bulb. If she had known earlier that this would happen, then she wouldn't have followed Yao Rao and Qin Chuan. When they arrived at the bonfire party, Qin Chuan looked at the dense crowd in front of him and couldn't help but be stunned. He exclaimed, Why are there so many people? In a huge, open space, countless people were sitting together. Half were men and half were women. A rough count showed that there were at least 10,000 people. I told you there will be a lot of people. Yao Rao looked at the front, then said to Qin Chuan, There is still a seat over there. Let's quickly go. Under the lead of Yao Rao, Qin Chuan and Ma Jiaowen squeezed into the crowd, and with great difficulty found an empty seat and sat down. But the clamorous voices all around seemed to want to drown them. It was a mess. Why are there so many people? Qin Chuan looked at the crowd all around, then said to Yao Rao through sound transmission, Are you sure this is a party? Not a job fair. Even if it was a job fair, there wouldn't be so many people. Yao Rao didn't explain to Qin Chuan, but Ma Jiaowen, who was sitting at the side, said to Qin Chuan, Not only the people of Pegasus Station will come here to participate in this bonfire party, people from many places within the radius of 10,000 li will also come here to participate. So many people are very normal. Having heard this, Qin Chuan was somewhat puzzled and asked, Why is that? Because this bonfire party is a super large-scale blind date party. Ma Jiaowen said to Qin Chuan with a smile, Basically, all the young men and women within the radius of 10,000 li will come here to look for their other halves through this bonfire party. If they miss this time, then they will have to wait for next year. So everyone is very active. No one wants to be single all the time. Hearing Ma Jiaowen's explanation, Qin Chuan couldn't help but was dumbstruck. He subconsciously stood up and looked all around. With the number of people on the scene, wouldn't there be more than 10,000 people tonight? As if she had seen through Qin Chuan's thoughts, Ma Jiaowen said with a smile, Actually, it is not as exaggerated as you think. Majority of people are here to watch the fun, for example us. Others are here for blind date. What fun is there for us to watch? Qin Chuan was puzzled. Don't tell me we can't watch other people whispering sweet nothings to each other on the spot. Your thoughts are too dirty. Yao Rao looked at Qin Chuan with a contemptuous gaze. Later, everyone will confess to their favorite girl. If the girl is willing, then they can hold hands successfully. If the girl is not willing, then they will fail. In addition, there will be another situation, that is, 2 boys or 2 girls will compete for the same object. In this case, if the defendant doesn't clearly express his love for one of them, then there will be a situation of competition on the same stage. It may be a duel, or it may also be a display of talent. In any case, it will be very lively, not as dirty as you think. Hearing Yaorao, Qingchuan's face couldn't help but suddenly saw the light. As it turned out, they wanted to watch this fun. Like this, his interest was also piqued. Qingchuan, you better protect Princess, Ma Jiawen said to Qingchuan with a smile. Wait, if someone confesses to Princess, then you have to step forward bravely. Having heard what was said, Qingchuan grinned and said, how about directly making her refuse? The opportunity to refuse is limited. Ma Jiawen explained to Qingchuan, if you continuously refuse the confession of 10 people and still don't find the object of your heart, then you only have 2 choices. Either you immediately leave the scene or accept the confession of the 11th person. There is no other way. Having heard what was said, Qingchuan was somewhat startled. There is actually this kind of rule? Ma Jiawen nodded her head. After all, the purpose of holding this bonfire party is for blind date, not for people to watch the fun. This can also be regarded as a kind of means to clean up the people who are watching the fun. After all the people who are watching the fun leave, the remaining people can choose their object of interest. Yaorao looked at Qingchuan, then asked to Qingchuan, if someone confesses to me, what are you going to do? Qingchuan pretended to ponder and didn't open his mouth for a long time. Seeing Yaorao was about to go berserk, he hastily said, of course I will step forward bravely and block those people. Consider yourself tactful. Yaorao snorted, expressing satisfaction with Qingchuan's answer. Qingchuan smiled, then sizing up Yaorao, he said, but looking at your image, I don't think there will be anyone who will confess to you. I see that there are girls who are more beautiful than you. Hiss. Before Qingchuan could finish his words, Yaorao had already ruthlessly pinched his waist. His blood-curdling scream was drowned in the clamor of the surroundings and didn't splash any waves. And at the same time, that huge wooden pagoda in the center of the scene had already been ignited, indicating that bonfire party was about to begin. Chapter 549. After the bonfire was ignited, the noise of the scene immediately became a lot smaller, and everyone coincidentally began to sing the ballad. Their singing gradually linked together and resounded through every corner of Pegasus Station. This is a ballad symbolizing beautiful love. Every time before the bonfire party officially starts, we will sing it. Yaorao looked at Qingchuan with sparkling eyes and asked, do you want to learn? I will teach you. Facing Yaorao's beautiful starry eyes, Qingchuan found it very difficult to say a word of no, so he nodded his head with a smile and said, okay, you teach me. Seeing Qingchuan agreed, Yaorao lightly opened her vermilion lips and softly sang. We are at the lakeside of the prairie, waiting for the bird to fly back. After Yaorao finished singing, Qingchuan also sang. We are at the lakeside of the prairie, waiting for the bird to fly back. When we grow up, we will have a baby. When we grow up, we will have a baby. Ma Jiawen, who was sitting at the side, looking at Yaorao and Qingchuan one after another singing, her face couldn't help but reveal a trace of longing. She also hoped that one day she could find a youngster she admired, and then they could sit together and sing, just like in the ballad, living in a place with beautiful scenery, and then together giving birth to a cute little life. When the ballad came to an end, the scene of the bonfire party gradually quieted down. After the scene was completely quiet, the confession began. Brave youngsters and young girls stood up, summoned up their courage, and walked towards the object of their admiration. Some people were happy, and naturally some people were sad. But just at the beginning, there were already people who successfully held hands and happily hugged each other. Seeing this scene, a burst of warm applause and cheers suddenly resounded, giving the most sincere blessings to this pair of lovers. And on the other side, 2 youngsters simultaneously fell in love with a young girl. The young girl who was chosen was from Spirit Deer Tribe. She was a very lovable and very sweet-looking young girl. This kind of young girl was very easy to arouse the desire to protect in the heart of youngsters, and was also one of the best girlfriend image in the eyes of many youngsters. And at the same time, the 2 youngsters who confessed to this young girl of Spirit Deer Tribe were respectively from Heavenly Horse Tribe and Golden Leopard Tribe. These 2 tribes were extremely famous tribes in the demon world. Both of them were relatively handsome and masculine, so the young girl of Spirit Deer tribe was at a loss for a moment. Not knowing whose confession she should accept was a normal matter. Obviously, the two young men were prepared for this situation. The young man from the Pegasus tribe raised his head and let out a long howl. His body transformed into a pure white Pegasus. He whinnied and showed off his beautiful body to the girls of the Spirit Deer tribe, which attracted a lot of cheers. On the other side, the young man of the Golden Leopard tribe didn't want to be outdone either. His body transformed into a golden leopard, and he showed off his vigorous body and keen skills to the young girl of the Spirit Deer tribe. He also won the applause of the entire audience. The young girl of Spirit Deer tribe couldn't help but blush in the face of the youngsters of Heavenly Horse tribe and Golden Leopard tribe. She liked the white and delicate skin of Heavenly Horse tribe, but she also liked the bravery and vigor of Golden Leopard tribe. Seeing that the young girl of Spirit Deer tribe still hadn't made a choice, the youngster of Heavenly Horse tribe opened his mouth and spat out a ball of blazing blue flame. In the middle of the flame, a white Dan was constantly jumping. That was the Demon Dan of Heavenly Horse tribe, showing that he was a top-level demon general. Seeing the youngster of Heavenly Horse tribe, the young girl of Spirit Deer tribe was overjoyed. She then looked at the youngster of Golden Leopard tribe, but found that the latter's face was gloomy. Obviously, his level was lower than the youngster of Heavenly Horse tribe, so it was inconvenient for him to show off. As expected, the girl from the Spirit Deer tribe chose the young man from the Golden Leopard tribe. When the two of them hugged each other and received the blessings of the crowd, the young man from the Golden Leopard tribe retreated in dejection. Qin Chuan looked at the departing figure of the youngster of Golden Leopard tribe, sighed and said, "This world not only looks, but also looks at the level of talent. If you don't have a certain level of talent, then it is really too difficult to find a girlfriend." Hearing Qin Chuan sigh, Yao Rao looked at him with a strange expression and said, "Isn't this a very normal thing? If you're not a genius youngster, but just an ordinary person, then do you think the two of us would have the opportunity to know each other, and would even sit together?" Qin Chuan smiled wryly and said, "What you said is very reasonable, but my idea is somewhat strange. But that youngster of Golden Leopard tribe is really a pity. He is younger than the youngster of Heavenly Horse tribe, so it is normal for his level to be lower than the youngster of Heavenly Horse tribe," Ma Jiawen said with some regret. "But I believe that by tomorrow, he will definitely be able to find someone he likes." Hearing Ma Jiawen's words, Qin Chuan was about to say something, but at that moment, a tall and mighty figure suddenly appeared in front of them. "Beautiful girl, please accept my most sincere love for you." The tall and handsome-looking youngster knelt down on one knee in front of Yao Rao, then presented a bouquet of roses symbolizing beautiful love to Yao Rao. Looking at Yao Rao, his gaze was incomparably passionate. Lang Xing was very sure that the girl before his eyes was his future wife. He had never been so serious like now, and no one could stop him. "Who are you?" Yao Rao frowned and looked at Lang Xing, who was kneeling in front of her. She was somewhat unhappy because this person was blocking her line of sight. "My name is Lang Xing. I come from the Great Battle Wolf tribe. I am one of the strongest and most outstanding warriors of Battle Wolf tribe." Lang Xing loudly said to Yao Rao, "Beautiful girl, please accept my confession to you." Hearing Lang Xing's words, Yao Rao couldn't help but gawked for a moment. At this time, she reacted. As it turned out, she was being confessed to. Subconsciously, Yao Rao turned her gaze towards Qin Chuan, who was sitting beside her, and said to Qin Chuan, "It's time for you to perform." Qin Chuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "You still have the right to refuse, but I don't want to use it." Yao Rao raised her eyebrows. "I want you to stand up." Facing the request of Yao Rao, it was very difficult for Qin Chuan to say a word of no. Just when Qin Chuan was preparing to stand up, Lang Xing, however, suddenly stood up and walked in front of him. Lang Xing's face was close to Yao Rao's, and using his pair of extremely aggressive eyes to look at Yao Rao, he loudly said, "Give up. You are not my opponent." Lang Xing was confident that he could defeat any opponent who dared to provoke him. "Whether I am your opponent or not, we have to fight to know. Qin Xuan lightly shrugged his shoulder. I don't mind to teach you how to respect others on behalf of your parents. To be honest, although you sprayed a lot of perfume on your body, but still can't cover up your body's unpleasant smell. Ayo! Lang Xing was furious. I want to fight with you. The loser will leave here forever. Qin Xuan grinned. As you wish. Chapter 550. The scene at Bonfire Party was very lively. The competition between Qin Xuan and Lang Xing didn't attract the attention of many people. Merely it gave rise to no small sensation in their surroundings. Brave warriors, let's fight. The winner will obtain the heart of this beautiful girl. Beautiful girls never like weaklings and cowards. It's time to show off your powerful muscles. Amidst the clamoring voices, Qin Xuan and Lang Xing arrived at a small open space in front of them, followed by Ma Jiawen and Yao Rao. After seeing Ma Jiawen and Yao Rao, many people whistled. Although everyone couldn't see Yao Rao's face, but merely from her eyes, everyone could judge that Yao Rao was absolutely a rare beauty in this world. And with the addition of similarly beautiful Ma Jiawen, everyone understood why Lang Xing wanted to duel with Qin Xuan. Today you will lose. Lang Xing looked at Qin Xuan with extremely confident gaze. You are absolutely not my opponent. Qin Xuan was somewhat speechless. This guy only spoke those few words. Could it be that he couldn't change his lines? Seeing Qin Xuan's indifferent appearance, Lang Xing was extremely angry in his heart. He really hated this feeling of being ignored. Illo! Lang Xing looked up to the sky and roared. Then his figure suddenly collided, directly revealing his true form, changing into a silver-white giant wolf. The movement of Lang Xing's transformation attracted the attention of many people. Hearing the sound, everyone looked over, and seeing the silver wolf standing on the open space with its head held high, all of them cheered loudly, looking forward to the birth of a wonderful duel. And on the other side, seeing Lang Xing's action, Qin Xuan couldn't help but somewhat awkwardly look towards Yao Rao and asked, "What does he want to compare with me?" "Of course, it's a comparison of your appearance." Yao Rao calmly said, "Being handsome is also a kind of strength, but this is my true form." Qin Xuan said with helpless face, "There is no comparison between a human and a wolf." "Idiot, where's your dragon transformation technique?" Yao Rao stared at Qin Xuan. "Don't tell me you want to deliberately lose to him." Seeing the threatening expression on the face of Yao Rao, Qin Xuan was very clear that if he didn't do as Yao Rao said, then perhaps he would die very miserably. So he no longer hesitated, looked towards the heaven and roared. Then his figure suddenly expanded, changing into an azure dragon. The moment Qin Xuan transformed into his dragon form, the noisy scene suddenly quieted down. Everyone looked at him with extremely shocked eyes, as if they had seen something extremely incredible. Even Lang Xing, who had been clamoring that Qin Xuan could never win, was dumbfounded at this time. He was completely stunned on the spot. Dragon. True dragon. A true dragon that had never appeared in thousands of years. Boom! At this moment, the scene of Bonfire Party was thoroughly stirred up. Everyone was crazily cheering, crazily venting the excitement in their heart. A true dragon had once again appeared in Demon World, and it was right in front of them. When the scene of Bonfire Party was thoroughly restless, Qin Xuan immediately realized that he seemed to have made a wrong definition. When he turned his gaze towards Yao Rao, he discovered that Yao Rao's complexion was red as if she had drunk wine, and her eyes were filled with stars. Screech! Suddenly, a sharp screech resounded in the sky. Shortly afterwards, a group of scarlet-colored flame fell down from the sky and loudly fell at the side of Azure Thunder Dragon, then changed into a completely scarlet-colored flame bird and began to revolve around the body of Azure Thunder Dragon. Seeing this scene, an idiom subconsciously appeared in the heart of everyone. Dragon and Phoenix bring prosperity. On the way back to the hotel, Qin Xuan looked at Yao Rao with a strange expression, then again looked towards Ma Jiawen and privately asked, "What's wrong with her? Has she gone crazy?" Hearing Qin Xuan, Ma Jiawen subconsciously looked towards Yao Rao. Seeing Yao Rao's red cheeks and drunk eyes, she helplessly said to Qin Chuan, "She seems to have drunk a bit too much." Qin Chuan was stunned. She obviously didn't drink even a drop of wine. Simply speaking, she is now in a very excited state, just like she had drunk wine. Ma Jiawen sighed. Now I can't see any shadow of that former Princess Rao from her body. In Ma Jiawen's impression, Princess Rao was calm and rational, resourceful, strong, and overbearing. But now Princess Rao was in love and had completely turned into a foolish woman who had fallen into the river of love. She was really worried that Yao Rao would drown in the river of love. Wasn't what we did at the bonfire a little too out of line? Qin Chuan sighed. I really didn't expect that transforming into dragon form would cause such a big sensation. Hearing Qin Chuan, Ma Jiawen wryly smiled and said, "No need to wait until tomorrow. The news of true dragon reappearing in the world will certainly spread throughout the entire demon world, and the picture of dragon and phoenix will certainly shock everyone." When Yao Rao wanted Qin Chuan to transform into dragon form, Ma Jiawen actually wanted to stop it. She was very clear that once Qin Chuan transformed into dragon form, it would cause a sensation. She was also sure that Yao Rao also knew about it, but Yao Rao still did it, which made her hesitate in her action. And in this moment of hesitation, the matter happened, and everything was irreversible. Afterwards, Yao Rao transformed into dragon form and danced with Qin Chuan, which pushed the whole matter to the climax. If they had not left in time, then they would have been drowned by the crazy crowd. "Jiawen, did you take a picture?" Yao Rao suddenly turned towards Ma Jiawen and asked, "Did you take a picture of that scene just now?" Ma Jiawen shook her head. "At that time, I didn't think of taking a picture, but tomorrow you should be able to see the picture you want on the internet." Having heard Ma Jiawen, Yao Rao looked at Ma Jiawen with sparkling eyes and asked, "At that time, the picture was very beautiful, right?" Ma Jiawen nodded her head and replied, "I have to admit this. At that time, the picture was indeed very beautiful and also very desirable." Qin Chuan. Suddenly, Yao Rao looked towards Qin Chuan, who was walking silently at the side. She seemed to have made a decision. Then, taking a deep breath, she said to Qin Chuan, "I don't want to be tangled and hesitant, and I also don't want to continue to wait. I want to tell you now." Yao Rao didn't finish her words because her mouth was covered by Qin Chuan's hand. Yao Rao looked at Qin Chuan, and the blazing flame burning in her bright and beautiful eyes gradually cooled down and dimmed down. Seeing this scene, Ma Jiawen helplessly sighed, then walked forward alone, leaving the time and space for Qin Chuan and Yao Rao. "I'm really sorry. There are some things that I can't do now." Qin Chuan looked at Yao Rao with guilty expression. "Can you give me a little bit more time? When I'm done with that matter, I'll definitely give you a satisfactory answer." Hearing Qin Chuan, the flame in Yao Rao's eyes reignited. Chapter 551. Just as Ma Jiawen had expected, the news of the dragon and phoenix appearing at the bonfire party at the White Horse Station spread like the wind throughout the entire demon realm, causing a sensation in the entire demon realm. As everyone knew, since the Great Chaos period, the demon realm had not seen a true dragon for thousands of years, and the phoenix was only a godlike existence that existed in legends. Now that the dragon and phoenix had appeared at the Pegasus Station, how could the world not be shocked and excited? For a time, countless demon clans heard the news and quickly gathered at the Pegasus Station. As the cause of the incident, Qin Chuan and his group left the Pegasus Station in a very low-key manner the next morning and continued their journey to Mount Tianyao. In the air, 2 white Pegasi were flying side by side, with 2 people sitting on each of them. It was Qin Chuan and his group who had just left the Pegasus Station. Qin Chuan looked down at the mountains and rivers on the ground, looking quite excited. "Why are you so happy? It's not your first time flying." Lion Baron looked at Qin Chuan's excited look and chuckled. "Why? Is it better to fly on this thing than to step on the clouds? I'm not excited because I'm flying in the air on a Pegasus, but because I've seen a scenery I've never seen before." Qin Chuan looked at Lion Baron with burning eyes. "If I'm just an ordinary person, then I'll never see the scenery under my feet in my life. I can't even imagine it. Do you understand what I mean? Lion Baron looked at Qin Chuan meaningfully. You're really a special person. You always have some special ideas. If it were other people who saw the scenery under their feet, they might just sigh at the beauty of the scenery, but Qin Chuan thought of his own life, and even his future. If he wanted to see more magnificent scenery, then he would have to cultivate to a higher realm. This kind of concept and idea would drive Qin Chuan to cultivate diligently and strive to climb to a higher realm. Lion Baron could conclude that as long as Qin Chuan maintained this attitude, his future achievements would certainly be above Yuanying realm and touch the realm that no one had been able to reach for nearly 10,000 years. Qin Chuan, 3,000 miles ahead, is our demon realm's famous heavenly phoenix plain. According to legend, it's the place where the first phoenix was born. Do you want to go and take a look? Yao Rao pointed at the huge parasol tree located in the center of the red plain below and said to Qin Chuan, "Do you see that parasol tree? That is the habitat of the phoenix and also the holy land of all birds." Hearing Yao Rao, Qin Chuan subconsciously looked towards that parasol tree below, and with a touch of curiosity in his eyes, he asked, "Can this kind of holy land be casually approached? Since this place is holy land, naturally all birds are welcome to make pilgrimage." Every day, many people would come here to worship and cultivate, hoping to comprehend a little bit of true meaning of Phoenix. But for thousands of years, the number of people who could comprehend true meaning of Phoenix is very few. Yao Rao said to Qin Chuan, "In the past, I had also come here to worship this parasol tree." Hearing Yao Rao, Ma Zhaoan faintly smiled, then added, "Moreover, Princess Rao is the only person who could comprehend true meaning of Phoenix during pilgrimage in recent several thousand years." Having heard what was said, Qin Chuan looked at Yao Rao with extreme surprise. "Truly underestimated you. Hey, could it be that I am so unbearable in your eyes?" Yao Rao glared at Qin Chuan. "Explain clearly. I didn't mean that. I just felt that for thousands of years, only few people could comprehend true meaning of Phoenix. But you were able to do it. Truly very awesome." Qin Chuan promptly explained, "What I mean is, although before I tried to overestimate you as much as possible, but I still underestimated you." Although Qin Chuan's explanation still made Yao Rao feel that something was not quite right, but this time she would let Qin Chuan off, and next time if he offended her again, she would settle this debt together with him. While everyone was talking, the Pegasus had already slowly descended towards the ground. When it was still more than 10,000 meters away from the parasol tree, it landed on the ground. Ma Zhaoan explained to Qin Chuan, "Since it is pilgrimage, naturally it is not good to directly fly over, so we generally walk over on foot to express our respect to Phoenix. When in Rome, do as the Romans do." Qin Chuan naturally didn't have any opinion regarding this. At this moment, he could see many demon race were slowly walking forward, and there were even some who kowtowed every 3 steps and kowtowed every 9 steps. It could be said that their pilgrimage heart was quite sincere. Ma Zhaoan received the 2 Pegasus inside her spirit beast bag. Then everyone walked towards the parasol tree. While walking, Yao Rao introduced various myths and legends related to Tianfeng Plain to Qin Chuan, especially emphasized the difficulty of comprehending true meaning of Phoenix, indirectly showing Qin Chuan how genius she was. In nearly 3,000 years, only 2 people were able to comprehend true meaning of Phoenix. One of them was me, and the other was Father Emperor, Yao Rao said to Qin Chuan with proud face. And because of this, Father Emperor was able to stand out from numerous brothers and succeed the position of Demon Emperor. Having heard what was said, Qin Chuan somewhat curiously asked, "Do you have any brothers and sisters by your side?" "No, I am the only daughter of Father Emperor and Mother Empress. Although Father Emperor as Demon Emperor has honorable status and has the right to have 3,000 beauties in the imperial harem, but Father Emperor, however, is an infatuated person. He only chooses 1 out of 3,000 beauties and wholeheartedly loves only Mother Empress. He is the model of my demon world's men." While speaking, Yao Rao also took a subtle glance at Qin Chuan, which contained deep meaning. Facing Yaorao's extremely suggestive gaze, Qin Chuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and said to Yaorao, "Don't look at me with that kind of expression. I'm also a very devoted person. Otherwise, I would have at least 3 or 4 girlfriends by my side by now." Having heard what was said, Yaorao coldly snorted, but didn't say anything. In Carefree Secret Realm, she had already known all the people by Qin Chuan's side and knew that there were quite a few girls who had a soft spot for Qin Chuan. With Qin Chuan's current condition, if he was willing, then he could absolutely hug left and right. But if Qin Chuan really did so, then he wouldn't be that Qin Chuan in her heart. Wait a minute. Qin Chuan suddenly stopped his footsteps. He frowned as he looked at the tall parasol tree in front of him, and his eyes were filled with bewilderment. Seeing Qin Chuan had stopped, everyone somewhat doubtfully looked at him and asked, "What's wrong?" "My body has a kind of strange feeling." Qin Chuan looked at everyone. "It's very special, but I can't say it's special." Hearing Qin Chuan's words, Ma Jiwen and Lion Ju didn't understand. But as if Yaorao thought of something, her eyes suddenly shone, and she asked Qin Chuan, "Do you feel as if your heart is burning? As if there is a ball of fire swimming inside your body?" Having heard what was said, Qin Chuan looked at Yaorao with extreme surprise and asked, "How do you know?" "Because I have also experienced this kind of feeling." Yaorao deeply looked at Qin Chuan. "That was when I was comprehending true meaning of Phoenix." Chapter 552. If Qin Chuan's words only made Ma Jiawen and Lion Duke feel strange, then Yaorao's words made both of them feel shocked. Qin Chuan's body actually had the feeling of comprehending true meaning of Phoenix. "Are you sure?" Lion Duke looked at Yaorao. How could he possibly comprehend true meaning of Phoenix? It had already been 10,000 years since Heavenly Phoenix Plain, and how many sages had made countless pilgrimages but were still unable to comprehend true meaning of Phoenix. And this was only the first time Qin Chuan had come here. Moreover, he hadn't even approached the parasol tree. So how could he comprehend true meaning of Phoenix so easily? This was unavoidably too simple. Comprehending true meaning of Phoenix must be done after the pilgrimage. He is not comprehending true meaning of Phoenix, rather because he came to Heavenly Phoenix Plain and naturally gave birth to true meaning of Phoenix. Yaorao looked at Qin Chuan with a shocked expression. She had never thought that Qin Chuan's body would actually produce such a miracle, and this miracle was personally created by her. Ma Jiawen frowned and said, "Qin Chuan is human, not our monster clan. So how could his body give birth to true meaning of Phoenix?" Don't forget, Qin Chuan had once taken Phoenix blood. Moreover, at that time in the duel against 50, he had once undergone Nirvana rebirth. Yaorao looked at everyone and said in an extremely complicated tone, it was at that time that Phoenix blood thoroughly integrated into his body, giving birth to true meaning of Phoenix. Hearing Yaorao's explanation, the face of Ma Jiawen and Lion Duke exposed an extremely shocked expression. They had never thought of this point. So to say, Qin Chuan giving birth to true meaning of Phoenix within his body was not an incomprehensible matter. Merely this brat's luck was a bit too heaven-defying. Just those few drops of Phoenix blood allowed him to give birth to true meaning of Phoenix. Yaorao somewhat enviously looked at Qin Chuan and said, "Although I often take Phoenix blood, but I have never experienced Nirvana rebirth. It seems I also have to find an opportunity to severely temper myself and experience life and death. Is this brat still considered a human?" Ma Jiawen looked at Qin Chuan with a strange expression. He has dragon blood in his body that can transform into a dragon. Now that he has fused with the heart blood of the Phoenix and given birth to the true intent of the Phoenix, he can no longer be considered a pure human, right? I really don't know what to say about this kid. Lion Duke sighed and said, if he had been born a few hundred years earlier, the world would have been unified. Just as everyone was sighing with emotion over the birth of the true intent of the Phoenix in Qin Chuan's body, Qin Chuan was already sweating profusely. He gritted his teeth and said, "Can you guys stop chatting and quickly help me? I feel like I'm going to die from the heat." To be more accurate, he was about to be burned to death. Seeing the painful expression on Qinchuan's face, Yaorao said to Qinchuan, "We can't help you in this matter. You must fuse that flame with your body by yourself. Only like this will you be able to eliminate this pain, and we can't help you." In those years, Yaorao had also experienced this kind of pain, so she could understand Qinchuan very well. But unfortunately, they couldn't help Qinchuan now. Qinchuan could only rely on himself. Having heard what was said, Qinchuan asked with painful expression, "Then what should I do?" "Absorb, accommodate, just like you usually absorb spirit qi when you cultivate." Yaorao turned her head and pointed towards the parasol tree, then said to Qinchuan, "Let's go over there. The closer we get to the parasol tree, the more obvious the fusion of the true intent of the phoenix will be." Hearing the words of Yaorao, Qinchuan subconsciously walked towards the direction of the parasol tree. Every step he took was extremely difficult. Not long after, his whole body was covered with sweat, and his complexion was as red as cooked prawn, and his skin was scalding hot. Seeing this kind of situation of Qinchuan, Yaorao somewhat anxiously said, "We can't continue like this step by step. If we continue to delay like this, he will be evaporated by the true intent of Phoenix." Having heard what was said, Lion Duke immediately reached out his hand to grab Qinchuan's arm, but unexpectedly a golden flame suddenly gushed out and ignited his palm. Under the pain, Lion Duke immediately let go of Qinchuan's arm and wanted to use his demon power to extinguish the flame on his palm, but it was useless. "This thing." Lion Duke turned pale with fright. "What kind of flame is this? Unexpectedly, it can't be extinguished." "This is God's fire aroused by true intent of Phoenix." Seeing the flame on the palm of Lion Duke, Yaorao immediately said to Lion Duke, "You quickly go and take a leaf of parasol tree. Only the leaf of this parasol tree can extinguish this flame." Hearing the words of Yaorao, Lion Duke's figure immediately disappeared from that place and directly rushed towards the parasol tree. And at this moment, Yaorao nevertheless quickly walked to the side of Qinchuan, wanting to take Qinchuan to the parasol tree. "Princess, you be careful, ah." Seeing Yaorao was about to touch Qinchuan, Ma Jiaowen immediately warned. "Even Lion King is unable to resist that God's fire." Before Ma Jiaowen even finished speaking, Yaorao had already reached out her hand to grab Qinchuan's hand and tightly held both of their hands together. That golden flame gushed out, but was unable to cause any harm to Yaorao. Seeing this scene, Ma Jiaowen instantly understood. Yaorao herself had comprehended true intent of Phoenix, and similarly possessed God's fire. So naturally, she was not afraid of being burned by God's fire. Just when Ma Jiaowen was thinking about these matters, a pair of scarlet-colored wings suddenly grew out from the back of Yaorao. Then lightly flapped, Qinchuan flew into the sky and directly rushed towards the parasol tree. Upon seeing this, Ma Jiaowen immediately followed, and whatever holy land or pilgrimage had already been thrown to the back of her head. The action of Qinchuan and others attracted the attention of many people in the vicinity. Seeing Yaorao and others flying in the sky, all of them angrily shouted, thinking that this was disrespect to holy land. However, at this time, Yaorao, didn't care about these and directly landed on the branch of the parasol tree with Qinchuan. After that, Qinchuan sat down cross-legged and operated thunder, devouring secret art, wanting to use the spiritual power within his body to integrate true intent of Phoenix. But true intent of Phoenix was extremely repelling to the spiritual power within his body and was basically unwilling to integrate with it. Seeing the performance of Qinchuan, Yaorao couldn't help but exclaimed in a low voice, "Oh no, Qinchuan, don't operate cultivation technique. Rely on the power of flesh and blood to integrate true intent of Phoenix." Power of flesh and blood? Hearing the warning of Yaorao, Qinchuan didn't hesitate and immediately faced the sky and roared, then immediately changed into dragon form and circled above the parasol tree. And the dragon roar shook the heaven and earth. After Qinchuan changed into dragon form, the repelling effect of true intent of Phoenix disappeared almost instantaneously, and he could feel that ball of golden flame was in the process of integrating into his body little by little, and the severe pain was also alleviated accordingly. Meanwhile, Lion Baron had already plucked a leaf and extinguished the god's fire in his palm. After that, he raised his head and looked at the azure thunder dragon flying in the sky, and sighed with emotion in his heart. This is probably the legendary Heaven's Chosen One. If not Heaven's Chosen One, how could he integrate dragon and phoenix bloodline into one? Chapter 553. Above the sky, a giant dragon was dancing. Everyone who saw this scene was stunned. No one thought that they would be able to see a giant dragon dancing above a parasol tree in their lifetime. While everyone was still in shock, several figures suddenly appeared in the sky and surrounded Qinchuan. I thought the news was fake. I didn't expect a real dragon to appear. A white-haired old woman looked at Qinchuan with deep eyes. It seems that your realm isn't high. What, Tianhe, do you want to eat dragon meat? A skinny old man with dark skin suddenly appeared beside the old woman. His voice was hoarse and unpleasant to the ears. Old Crow, don't tell me you're not tempted. The old woman looked at the skinny old man with deep eyes. How about the two of us work together to capture this dragon and split it in two? Hee, you two shameless bastards. Why don't you think about us when there are benefits? A beautiful woman with a five-colored radiance flashed and stood in front of the old woman. She giggled and said, Tianhe, don't tell me you think you can regain your youth after eating this dragon meat. Matron of Honor, your mouth is really annoying. Tianhe looked at the Matron of Honor with gloomy eyes. Then, she looked at the figure of a child with a red doo-doo. She said coldly, Shueke, you're here too. If you ask me, we shouldn't think about taking it all for ourselves. It's best to divide such a big dragon into four. Shueke, who appeared last, smiled. If we don't act now, more people will come and things will be difficult. Hearing Shueke's words, everyone was silent. No one refuted. If they act now, each person can get a little share. If they delay for a while, they might not even get a mouthful of soup. Then let's do as Shueke said. The four of us will act together and divide it equally. Sky Crane snorted coldly. If someone else wants to interfere later, you naturally know what to do. Hee, this is the legendary divine dragon. If he was in the same realm as us, perhaps I wouldn't even dare to show my face. Unfortunately, he's just a mere demon general. Old Crow laughed sinisterly. If I eat him, my black devil art might be able to take another step forward. Just as the four were about to approach Qinchuan, Ma Jiawen's figure suddenly appeared in front of them. She said to them, Heavenly Horse Tribe's Saintess Ma Jiawen greets the four seniors. Looking at the sudden appearance of Ma Jiawen, the Matron of Honor giggled and asked, Could it be that the Saintess of the Pegasus tribe also wants a piece of the cake? If your father were here, we would naturally have to think twice, but you can forget about it. Even though the Pegasus tribe was a big tribe, they weren't afraid of a junior like Ma Jiawen. Ma Jiawen was very clear about her own strength. She didn't expect herself to be able to deter these four demon kings, so she didn't hesitate to mention the name of Yaorao. Four seniors. That Lei Long is Princess Rao's friend. At this moment, Princess Rao is on the parasol tree. If you want to attack Lei Long, once Princess Rao gets angry, you will certainly provoke His Majesty the Demon Emperor. You have to think twice before you act. Princess Rao? Hearing those words, the complexion of the Matron of Honor suddenly changed. She subconsciously looked towards the direction of the parasol tree. Sure enough, she saw Yaorao's figure on the branch. At this moment, other three people also noticed Yaorao, and all of them frowned. If this Lei Long was Yaorao's friend, then it would truly be somewhat difficult for them to attack. But just like this, they could only look on helplessly as a huge opportunity slipped away in front of their eyes. This was truly too pitiful. But if they really provoked His Majesty the Demon Emperor because of attacking Lei Long, then their end wouldn't be good. At the very least, they would be locked up in the ghost prison for several decades. That place wasn't a place for people to stay. Even if they were demon kings, once they entered, they would lose a layer of skin. Just when everyone was pondering whether it was worth it or not, a burst of extremely loud dragon roar suddenly came from the distant sky. A jet-black long dragon approached from afar and instantly approached the parasol tree. Seeing the figure of this black dragon, Shui Ke exclaimed, "It's Black Jiao King." Seeing the appearance of Black Jiao King, Ma Jiawen's complexion immediately changed. Just when she was about to open her mouth to stop Black Jiao King, Black Jiao King's figure had already rapidly approached Qin Chuan. Roar! At this time, an extremely overbearing lion roar suddenly resounded in the sky. A tall and majestic figure suddenly appeared in front of Black Jiao King. Raising his hand, he punched Black Jiao King and forced him to retreat. "Old thing, what do you want to do?" Lion Duke stood in front of Black Jiao King. His eyes were cold as he looked at Black Jiao King. His whole body was surging with aura, and his killing intent was astonishing. "It's you." Black Jiao King stabilized himself and looked at Lion Duke with an extremely shocked expression on his face. At this time, everyone had also seen Lion Duke. When they recognized Lion Duke, everyone's expression was extremely shocked. "It's actually him, Lion Duke, the most outstanding king of the lion tribe in 10,000 years, Lion Duke." The matron of honor looked at Lion Duke, who was blocking Black Jiao King, and asked Ma Jiawen, "Isn't Lion Duke dead? Why is he with you?" Not only is Lion King not dead, but his cultivation is even higher than before. Ma Jiawen smiled slightly and said to everyone, "Lion King is Lei Long's protector." Hearing Ma Jiawen's explanation, everyone's expression became a little strange. Blood Sparrow narrowed his eyes and said in a low voice, "Legend has it that the blood of a dragon can cure some diseases in the world. It has the ability to bring the dead back to life." Lion Duke's foundation was damaged, and his cultivation fell. When he appeared with the rat tribe, he was already at the end of his lifespan. Now, he suddenly returned to the Demon King realm and became the protector of a young dragon. It seems that he obtained a drop of blood from an old dragon, and as a condition of exchange, he became the protector of this young dragon. Blood Sparrow's analysis is reasonable. It's about the same as what I thought. Sky Crane looked at Qin Chuan, who was not far away, and said in a low voice, "If there's an old dragon behind this young dragon, then this kid can't be touched." Killing a young dragon was easy, but if it provoked an old dragon, none of them would be able to escape. Humph, in my opinion, the old dragon is probably still sealed in the human world. This baby dragon should have been brought here by Lion Lord from the human world. Don't forget that the last time Lion Lord appeared was in the human world, and the place where the news of the appearance of a real dragon was spread was the Pegasus Station, which is the closest to the Boundary Mountain. Old Crow looked at Ma Jiawen with a gloomy expression and asked, "Princess Rao is with this young dragon. Are they going to Mount Tianyao to meet the King of Demons?" Chapter 554. Ma Jiawen stood to the side, listening to the conversation between the four demon kings. She was stunned. These demon kings were too imaginative. However, it wasn't without reason. After all, it was a fact that Lion Duke had returned to the Demon King realm. Now, he was Qin Chuan's protector. Ma Jiawen nodded. "That's right. We are on our way to Mount Tianyao to meet the Demon King. Lei Long is someone the Demon King wants to meet." Hearing Ma Jiawen's words, everyone had completely dispelled the little bit of greed they had for Qin Chuan. Although they were demon kings, in front of a demon emperor, they were only juniors. Unless they were tired of living, they would never touch the person that the demon emperor wanted to meet. As for whether Ma Jiawen was lying or not, they didn't think Ma Jiawen had the guts to lie about the demon king. Besides, Princess Rao was here. What better evidence could there be? Although they didn't plan to do anything to Qin Chuan, the Black Drake King didn't think the same. "Lion Duke, you want to stop me?" The Black Drake King roared. "I haven't seen you in a few decades. Your guts have grown by quite a bit. Old thing, don't flaunt your seniority in front of me." Lion Duke laughed. "If you're not convinced, then let's fight. Let's see if I can break your teeth and pull out your dragon tendons." "Oh no, it should be dragon tendons." You don't deserve to be called a dragon." Hearing Lion Duke's mocking words, the Black Drake King was enraged. He opened his mouth and spat out a black ball of water at Lion Duke. The ball of water exploded on its way to Lion Duke. It turned into countless water arrows and shot towards Lion Duke. Lion Duke opened his mouth and roared. The water arrows exploded in the air and disappeared without a trace. The spectators nearby all had a pained look on their faces. They quickly used their demon chi to seal their hearing. Sky Crane sighed and said, "Lion Baron is the strongest Lion King in the history of the Lion tribe. Black Drake King won't be able to take advantage of him. The Black Jiao King, has been famous for over 1,000 years. Unfortunately, he's only a Jiao dragon and has never been able to transform into a true dragon. Now that there's a young dragon in front of him, as long as he devours the bloodline of this young dragon, there's a high chance that he'll transform into a true dragon. If I were the Black Jiao King, even if a demon emperor were to stand in my way, I'm afraid he'd still give it a try." The true dragon bloodline was a great supplement to them, but to the Black WRM King, it would determine whether he could evolve into a true dragon. If the Black WRM King succeeded, the Black WRM King would have to change his name to the Black Dragon King. But the Black Drake King might not succeed. Don't forget, the Lion Baron is not to be trifled with. Blood Sparrow looked at Lion Duke's body and said, "Black Drake King is stronger than Lion Duke, but there's a limit to that. It will be difficult for him to defeat Lion Duke. But then again, what is this young dragon doing?" The Matron of Honor looked at Qin Xuan, who was roaring in the sky, and asked curiously, "What's wrong with him? Why is he doing this on the parasol tree?" "I don't know." Blood Sparrow shook his head. "Maybe it's some special ceremony of the Dragon Clan." "No." Sky Crane's eyes suddenly widened. "Did you see the golden light on the Thunder Dragon's body? That aura is exactly the same as the remnant of the divine fire on the parasol tree." Upon hearing Tian He's words, the crowd subconsciously turned their gazes towards Qin Xuan. When they saw the faintly discernible golden light, an extremely shocking greed flashed in their eyes. Divine fire? This Thunder Dragon is absorbing the divine fire. Blood Sparrow trembled with excitement. Did he comprehend the true meaning of the phoenix? If he doesn't have the true meaning of the phoenix, it's impossible for the divine fire to appear in his body. Old Crow cackled. "If I eat him, Old Crow can also obtain the true meaning of the phoenix." If they were afraid of the Shifter King and the Lion Baron before, when the true meaning of the phoenix was in front of them, the huge benefits were enough to make them take the risk. Once they obtained the true meaning of the phoenix, their bloodline would definitely evolve. By then, even the Shifter King might not be able to do anything to them. Seeing the greed on everyone's faces, Ma Jiaowen's face suddenly changed. "What do you want to do?" "Don't forget that Princess Rao also has the true meaning of the phoenix." "Are you going to attack Princess Rao?" Junior, don't scare us with Princess Rao. We naturally won't touch the Shifter King's daughter, but this young dragon has to be dealt with." Blood Sparrow sneered, his young face full of greed. "Kill him and obtain the true meaning of the phoenix. Then I will no longer be Blood Sparrow, but Blood Phoenix." Whoosh! Blood Sparrow's figure flashed in the sky, and almost instantly he arrived in front of Qin Xuan. Then he suddenly stretched out his white and tender little hand towards Qin Xuan to grab him. "You dare!" Seeing this scene, Yaorao, who was standing on the branch, immediately became furious. Then she immediately took out Tianyi Fan and waved it towards Blood Sparrow. Seeing this, Blood Sparrow sneered. Then he raised his hand and neutralized the divine might of Tianyi Fan. "Princess Rao, I respect your father emperor, but I don't need to give you face. So don't go too far." Blood Sparrow coldly stared at Yaorao. "If you want to spoil my good deed, then I will have to teach you a lesson in place of your father emperor." Just when Blood Sparrow was warning Yaorao, other 3 people also rushed over one after another. Their attitude was the same as before. First, they would join hands to capture Qin Xuan, then divide Qin Xuan into 4. At that time, They would find a place to hide and carefully comprehend the true meaning of Phoenix. After they had some achievement, then they would come out. At that time, even Shifter King might not be able to do anything to them. What do you want to do? Yao Rao angrily glared at everyone. Qin Xuan is my father Emperor's guest. He is my Heavenly Monster Mountain's guest. Do you want to go against Heavenly Monster Mountain? Princess Rao, don't use your father Emperor to scare us. We are able to cultivate to Demon King realm. How many of us are afraid of trouble? Old Crow coldly smiled. We must have this young dragon. Before his voice fell, Old Crow had already taken the lead and brazenly rushed towards Qin Xuan. At the same time, Qin Xuan, who was flying in the sky, was also aware of the arrival of crisis. So he opened his mouth and spouted a group of dragon breath towards Old Crow, who was flying towards him. The dragon breath was unexpectedly dazzling with golden light. Originally, Old Crow didn't bother dodging Qin Xuan's dragon breath. However, when he saw the golden light on the dragon breath, his expression changed abruptly. He hurriedly dodged the dragon breath that was coming at him. Other people who were following behind Old Crow also dodged one after another. They were unwilling to have any contact with this dragon breath. This dragon breath is actually mixed with God's fire. Blood Sparrow's eyes flickered. They would rather have a big fight with people of the same realm than to touch this God's fire. Chapter 555. Although the divine spirit flame was terrifying, it was impossible for it to stop the demon monarchs from advancing. Everyone, we will attack him from 4 directions. He can only attack one of us. The matron of honor said to everyone, no matter who succeeds, they have to abide by the previous agreement. If they dare to violate it, the other 3 will kill them together. Good. Let's do as the matron of honor said. The demon kings immediately reached a consensus and spread out, surrounding Qin Xuan in the middle, on the tree branch. When Yao Rao saw that everyone was about to besiege Qin Xuan, she immediately took out the phoenix feather from her storage ring and inserted it into the Tiani fan. Then, she fiercely waved it at the demon kings. Whoosh! A sea of red flames suddenly appeared in the sky and surged towards the demon monarchs from all directions. Seeing this, Tianhe coldly snorted and waved his hand. A hurricane whistled and swept away the flame in the sky. In the blink of an eye, it extinguished the flame. Seeing this scene, Yao Rao's face suddenly turned pale. Even with the support of the phoenix feather, the Tiani fan still could not cause any interference to the demon kings. She was simply powerless to stop the demon kings from pouncing on Qin Xuan. If you dare to kill him today, I will definitely exterminate your entire clan. Yao Rao roared with grief and indignation. She would not let any of these people off in the future. However, the demon kings did not take Yao Rao's threat to heart at all. At this time, they only had Qin Xuan in their eyes. Old Crow took the lead. His whole body turned into a black demon wind and instantly wrapped around Qin Xuan's body. He wanted to wrap Qin Xuan up and leave this place. However, before he could do anything, a roar suddenly came from afar. Lion Duke abandoned the Black Dragon King and brazenly attacked. Bastard, put down this king's things. The Black Dragon King saw this and roared. He was determined to get Qin Xuan. Anyone who dared to interfere would not be forgiven. Seeing that the Black Dragon King and Lion Duke were attacking him, Old Crow's face suddenly became ugly. He roared at the other 3, you guys block the 2 of them. I will take the things and retreat first. After that, I will definitely hand over the remaining 3/4. If I violate this, I will be punished by the heavens. Hearing Old Crow's words, the other 3 demon kings could not help but look at each other and decided to block the Lion Duke and the Black Dragon King for Old Crow. If the things were in Old Crow's hands, they might get a share. But if the things were in the hands of Lion Duke or the Black Dragon King, it would be difficult for them to get a share. Just as the 3 demon kings were about to stop the Lion Duke and the Black Dray King, Old Crow suddenly screamed from behind them. Rumble! The clear sky suddenly darkened. From the dark clouds, a bolt of lightning as thick as a bucket suddenly struck Old Crow's body. Almost instantly, the demonic wind around Old Crow was dispersed, causing him to suffer unspeakably. This sudden turn of events attracted the attention of the crowd. As they stared at the pale-faced Old Crow, who had already distanced himself from Qin Chuan, shock surfaced on the faces of the crowd. They were curious as to what exactly had happened to actually cause Old Crow to let go of the fatty meat that was already at his mouth. Roar! At this moment, Qin Chuan suddenly roared into the sky. Then, the dragon horn on his head suddenly lit up with azure lightning. Under his guidance, the dark clouds once again struck down a bolt of lightning, directly landing on Old Crow's body. Old Crow did not even have the chance to escape. He was ruthlessly struck by the bolt of lightning on his back. Once again, he let out an extremely miserable cry. This time, everyone finally knew what had just happened. Old Crow was actually beaten back by Qin Chuan. Looking at Old Crow's charred and miserable appearance, everyone was extremely shocked. One must know that no matter how weak Old Crow was, he was still a demon king. On the other hand, Qin Chuan's cultivation level was only equivalent to that of a top-level demon general. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, who would have believed that a mere top-level demon general could beat back a demon king and even severely injure him? To others, this might be an extremely inconceivable thing. However, Lion Baron did not feel that there was anything wrong. After all, Qin Chuan was someone who had absorbed a total of 9 nascent soul stage lightning tribulations. To an old demon king like Old Crow, the power of the nascent soul stage lightning tribulations was enough to make any nascent soul stage cultivator retreat, especially when Qin Chuan had absorbed the power of 2 nascent soul stage lightning tribulations. How did he do it? Shui Ke looked at Qin Chuan in horror. This thunder dragon was too terrifying. If it was not for his low cultivation level, wouldn't he have killed Old Crow on the spot? At this time, even the Black King Dragon, who coveted Qin Chuan the most, looked at Qin Chuan with an extremely dignified expression. He originally thought that Qin Chuan was just a reptile that he could crush at will. Now, it seemed that this reptile was poisonous. If he was accidentally bitten, he would be in pain for a long time. Whoosh! Lion Baron's figure appeared in front of Qin Chuan. He asked Qin Chuan, "Are you all right?" Qin Chuan shook his head, but did not speak. This was because he was in so much pain that he could not speak at all. The process of the true will of the phoenix fusing into his body was too torturous. If it were not for the fact that he was on the verge of death, he would not have wanted to fight back against Old Crow. The 2 attacks just now had used up 2 of his lightning tribulations. If he could not successfully deter the demon kings, it would be too uncomfortable. Whoosh! At this time, Yao Rao's figure also appeared beside Qin Chuan. She stood on top of the feather and coldly looked at the demon kings. Then she said in deep voice, "What do you want to do? Do you want to rebel? Do you know who is the master of this demon realm?" Facing Yao Rao's question, although the demon kings felt disdain in their heart, but they didn't say it out loud. They were not afraid of offending Yao Rao, but if they provoked the demon emperor, then it would not be worthwhile. Princess Rao, the master of this demon realm, is naturally your father, His Majesty Demon Emperor. Today, we are not targeting you. We are targeting this thunder dragon. Tianhe gloomily looked at Yao Rao. This king's lifespan is nearing its end. This may be this king's last chance to prolong my life. In any case, this king will not easily let go of this chance. Tianhe was now more than 1,200 years old. She had almost reached the limit of Yuanying stage. Heavenly materials could no longer prolong her life. What she needed now was the promotion of realm or the promotion of life level. However, her talent was really limited. After cultivating for so many years, she didn't see the slightest hope of breakthrough. So she could only pin her hope on the occurrence of a miracle. And now a miracle had occurred. A real dragon with true will of the phoenix had appeared in front of her. If she couldn't take it down, then what was the difference between her and death? "Princess Rao, get out of the way." Shui Ke coldly said, "If your father emperor is here, then we naturally won't say anything. But if you want to use your father emperor's name to deter us, you are still far from it. Chapter 556. Little girl, others may be afraid of your father emperor, but this king is not afraid. As one of the few kings of Demon World, Black Flood Dragon King was not like other ordinary demon king who would be intimidated by the name of Demon Emperor. Today, even if Demon Emperor were to block his path, he would still stake it all. The opportunity to transform into a dragon was right in front of him, so no matter what, he would not easily let it go. Seeing the attitude of Demon King was so firm, Yaorao's complexion became extremely unsightly. She really didn't expect that these Demon King's courage would actually be so big. Even her father emperor was not in their eyes. If you want to make a move against Qin Chuan, then first step over this queen's corpse. In any case, it was impossible for Yaorao to sit back and watch these Demon King make a move against Qin Chuan. Even if she had to die, it was also impossible. Facing Yaorao's determination, the face of Demon King exposed some impatience. They didn't have time to play this kind of boring game with Yaorao. Today, if you want to court death, then this king will kill you. Black Flood Dragon King roared. The opportunity to transform into a true dragon was right in front of him, so he absolutely couldn't retreat just because of Yaorao. While speaking, Black Flood Dragon King looked at other Demon King and said in deep voice, "You all help this king to seize this opportunity. This king promises that as long as you have this child's dragon heart, everything else will be yours." Hearing Black Flood Dragon King's words, all the Demon King was somewhat moved. Now that Yaorao was obstructing them, they didn't have the courage to kill Yaorao, but Black Flood Dragon King had this courage. At that time, even if the sky collapsed, Black Flood Dragon King, this tall man, would be able to hold it up, so their life would be relatively easier. Moreover, Black Flood Dragon King only wanted the dragon heart, so he wouldn't harm their interests. "Okay, we will cooperate with you." Tianhe was the first to open her mouth and agree. She only had few years left to live, so if she didn't go all out now, then she would lose her life. "Then let's go together." Matron of Honor smiled. "Such a delicacy. Wouldn't it be a pity to miss it?" Shui Ke sneered. "Before we make a move, we should think about how to deal with that lightning power." When they heard Shui Ke's words, the crowd subconsciously lifted their heads to look at the thick, dark clouds above their heads. Their expressions were a little strange. Old Crow's mistake was still vivid in their minds. They did not want to be struck by this thunderbolt energy. If that happened, they would end up in trouble instead of obtaining any benefits. "What do you take me for?" Right at this moment, a slightly weak voice resounded by everyone's ears. Qin Chuan was looking at everyone with his golden vertical pupils, and his eyes were filled with rage. "Qin Chuan, how are you?" Hearing Qin Chuan speak, Yaorao immediately came to the side of Qin Chuan and asked about the situation of Qin Chuan with concern. Seeing the worried expression on Yaorao's face, Qin Chuan lightly shook his head, indicating that he was fine. "Brat, if you know what's good for you, you should commit suicide. That way, you might be able to preserve your dragon soul. Otherwise, when the time comes and we do it ourselves, you might not have anything left." Shui Ke gloomily stared at Qin Chuan. "Don't tell me you really think you can contend against Demon King?" Excluding that mysterious thunderbolt energy, Qin Chuan was merely an ant in their eyes. However, the instant Shui Ke's voice fell, the dark clouds above the sky once again flickered with lightning. Next moment, a bucket-thick thunderbolt energy fell down. Shui Ke didn't even have time to raise his demon power shield, and was ruthlessly hit by this thunderbolt energy. The instant he was hit by the thunderbolt energy, the complexion of Shui Ke suddenly became incomparably malevolent. He opened his mouth and issued an extremely mournful, blood-curdling scream. His entire body became charred black, and his aura was also weakened to the extreme. Compared to Old Crow, who had been struck twice, he was even worse. Seeing the insolence of Shui Ke, the faces of other demon kings exposed a touch of fear and subconsciously retreated. Even Black Flood Dragon King was no exception. When Old Crow saw Shui Ke's miserable state, He seemed to recall the painful experience from before. His face twitched violently, and he actually turned around to leave, giving up on the idea of attacking Qin Chuan. Who else wants to try the power of this lightning tribulation? Qin Chuan looked around at the Demon Kings and said in a low voice, "I will definitely satisfy your request." Hearing Qin Chuan's words, the expressions of the Demon Kings became extremely ugly. They had dominated the demon realm for hundreds of years, but this was the first time they were threatened by a mere demon general. Furthermore, they couldn't do anything to him, and it was simply extremely sullen. This is not an ordinary thunderbolt energy, but the power of the lightning tribulation. Black Flood Dragon King gloomily looked at Qin Chuan. "You must have absorbed some of the power of the lightning tribulation of the nascent soul stage, so that's why you can use such a powerful technique." Qin Chuan coldly laughed. "What are you trying to say? Are you trying to say that I probably can't use such a powerful lightning tribulation more than a few times? You can give it a try. Let's see if I can kill one of them before you can catch me. Whoever attacks me first, I will kill that person first." Hearing Qin Chuan's words, the expressions of the Demon Kings changed again and again, and it could be said that they were extremely gloomy. Although they speculated that Qin Chuan could not release the power of the lightning tribulation without limit, if Qin Chuan concentrated all the power of the lightning tribulation on one person, even if they were Demon Kings, they would probably lose half of their lives. At that time, Lion Duke, who was watching covetously from the side, would definitely be able to take their lives. "Are you all afraid?" Tiana saw that everyone was frightened by Qin Chuan and couldn't help but frown and snort coldly. "Hee, Tianhe, don't try to provoke us. You don't have many years left to live, but we can live for at least hundreds of years. If we miss this opportunity, we can just wait for the next one." The Matron of Honor laughed coldly. "But if you have the guts to be the first to charge, I will accompany you to the end." The Matron of Honor's words spoke the hearts of the other Demon Kings. In the end, they were still afraid of the power of the lightning tribulation and did not want to make a wedding dress for others in vain. Seeing that the other Demon Kings were unwilling to charge at the front, the Black Dragon King could not help but show a trace of anger on his face. He said coldly, "If any of you are willing to charge at the front, I will guarantee that you will not die. And after that, I will give you a generous gift." However, even though the Black Dragon King had made a promise, no Demon King was willing to go forward. The situation was in a deadlock for a while. At this moment, the Blood Sparrow, who had recovered, looked at the dark clouds in the sky in horror and said to the Demon Kings, "You can continue to waste time here. I will not play with you anymore. I will leave first." With that, the Blood Sparrow's figure flashed and flew into the distance, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Seeing this scene, the other Demon Kings could not help but look a little hesitant. There were not many people left on their side now. With Lion Duke's strength, it was not a big problem to fight 1 against 2. The remaining person would have to face Qin Chuan's lightning tribulation power. Chapter 557. Looking at the hesitant remaining 3 Demon Kings, Ma Jiawen's mood was really incomparably complicated. In the past, she always thought that Demon Kings were aloof and remote, and they were the most powerful and most terrifying existence in this world. Even if she was a saintess, she would still be very cautious when facing Demon Kings. But today, when she saw Heavenly Crane and other 3 Demon Kings were going to attack Qin Chuan, her heart was incomparably desperate because she didn't think that they could resist these Demon Kings with their strength. In her opinion, all struggle was futile and useless. Qin Chuan would die without a doubt. However, Qin Chuan used practical action to teach her a lesson. Even in the face of incomparably powerful Demon Kings, they, as ants, were still a threat. Yarao's mood was also very complicated. She had never thought that the situation would develop to this point. At the same time, this also made her deeply aware that sometimes a simple threat was useless. One must have corresponding strength. Only then would one's threat be taken seriously by other people. If Qin Chuan only threatened these Demon Kings verbally, then these Demon Kings may not care about his threat. But Qin Chuan first chopped Old Crow, then chopped Shui Ke, and used practical action to prove that he had the strength to injure Demon Kings. This made these Demon Kings not dare to act blindly without thinking. If not for this, then perhaps Qin Chuan would have already become a corpse. Huh? How come only you three are left? Lion Baron laughed. Do you still want to fight? Come, 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 Black Jiao King. I will block Heavenly Crane and Xinyang for you. You go find Qin Chuan. I think your skin is rough and thick, so he shouldn't be able to chop you to death. Hearing Lion Baron's unrestrained ridicule, Black Jiao King's complexion became extremely unsightly. According to his estimation, he could at most withstand the power of lightning tribulation for 2 times. If there was a 3rd time, then he might not be able to withstand it. But the key point now was that he didn't know how many times Qin Chuan could release such formidable power of lightning tribulation. If there were more than 4 times, then he would be in danger. The Matron of Honor's expression changed again and again when she saw the Black Wyrm King's hesitation. In the end, she sighed and shook her head. Forget it, forget it. I'll leave as well. It's boring, really boring. As soon as she finished speaking, the Matron of Honor's figure had already vanished. At this moment, only the Black Wyrm King and Sky Crane remained. The Black Wyrm King knew that he was going to return empty-handed today. He glared at Qin Chuan with unwillingness. Qin Chuan didn't say a word. Instead, his dragon horn lit up with azure lightning. When he saw this, Sky Crane didn't even say a word before his figure flickered and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. Roar! The Black Flood Dragon King was infuriated. He roared at the sky and turned to leave, unwilling to give up. Seeing the Black Wyrm King's figure gradually disappear into the distance, everyone present heaved a long sigh of relief. Although they appeared to be very tough just now, only they knew how helpless and hopeless it was to face 5 Monster Kings at the same time. We're safe. Ma Jiawen looked at Qin Chuan with a complicated expression. You forced those Monster Kings to retreat. When she said this, Ma Jiawen really couldn't find words to describe her feelings at this moment. Qin Chuan was only in the Foundation establishment peak, but he had already forced several Monster Kings to retreat. Such a shocking achievement was enough to brag about for the rest of her life. Qin Chuan had already transformed into his human form. He smiled at Ma Jiawen and said, "To be honest, I thought I was going to die. When Old Crow captured him, he thought he was going to die. In his desperation, he fought back with all his might. He subconsciously used what he thought was his strongest attack, which was the power of the lightning tribulation. He didn't expect it to be so effective. When Old Crow let go of him, Qin Chuan wasn't sure if it was the power of the lightning tribulation that had taken effect. That was why he attacked Old Crow with the power of the lightning tribulation a 2nd time. This time, he was finally sure that the power of the lightning tribulation was enough to threaten a Demon King. At that moment, Qin Chuan felt like he was pulled out of the abyss of death by a hand. You're really lucky this time. Lion Duke looked at Qin Chuan with a strange expression. It's a miracle that you're still alive. This was Lion Duke's first time facing 5 Monster Kings at the same time. Although Sky Crane and the other Monster Kings were only low-tier Monster Kings, and the weakest among them, they were still Monster Kings. Killing Qin Chuan was as easy as flipping their palms. He thought Qin Chuan was dead for sure this time. He was even prepared to kill a few Monster Kings to accompany Qin Chuan in death. Who would have thought that Qin Chuan would suddenly explode and use the power of the lightning tribulation to force the Monster Kings back? From Lion Duke's point of view, Qin Chuan was really lucky. If there was another Monster King on the same level as the Black Drake King, they wouldn't be able to escape unscathed. It's a miracle indeed. Qin Chuan couldn't help but admit that he was really lucky to be alive. If these Monster Kings could unify their thoughts and not only think about themselves, he wouldn't be standing here saying these words right now. Qin Chuan, how was the absorption of true meaning of Phoenix? Yao Rao asked with some concern. Looking at your current appearance, there shouldn't be any problem. Qin Chuan nodded his head, then shook his head. I also don't know what's the current situation. After I released the power of lightning tribulation, true meaning of Phoenix disappeared. Disappeared? Yao Rao was stunned for a moment, then asked, "You can't feel the existence of true meaning of Phoenix?" Qin Chuan scratched his head, then nodded his head and said, "Now I indeed can't feel the existence of true meaning of Phoenix, but phew." Qin Chuan spread out his palm, and with a thought, a golden flame appeared in the hollow of his palm. Seeing the god spirit fire in the hollow of Qin Chuan's palm, Yao Rao was somewhat confused. Obviously, the god spirit fire was still there, so why did true meaning of Phoenix disappear? Or perhaps true meaning of Phoenix didn't disappear, rather turned into a relatively strange thing. Qin Chuan looked at Yao Rao with a strange expression. "There is an egg in my dantian." "An egg?" Yao Rao was confused. "What egg?" Qin Chuan very seriously replied, "A golden egg." Hey, don't tell me it's Jindan?" Ma Zhaoan interrupted. "Don't tell me you're already a Jindan stage cultivator." "I haven't cultivated Jindan, but I can also feel that this egg is not Jindan." It suddenly appeared after true meaning of Phoenix disappeared. Qin Chuan bitterly smiled. At that time, when he had advanced to Foundation Establishment stage, his innate rune had undergone a mutation, transforming into a half-gold, half-blue Dan. And now an egg had unexpectedly appeared in his dantian. This was unavoidably. Just when Qin Chuan was thinking about this, he suddenly froze, because he suddenly discovered that the half-gold, half-blue Dan in his brain domain had unknowingly turned into pure gold color. Chapter 558. What is this situation? Qin Chuan felt a little dizzy. There were so many strange changes happening to his body, and he had no idea what was going on. It was a very bad feeling. Seeing Qin Chuan's complexion changed again and again, Yao Rao somewhat curiously asked, "What happened to you? What new discovery did you make?" Having heard the question, Qin Chuan bitterly smiled and said, "I also don't know how to describe my current situation. I can only say I don't feel anything." Yao Rao also felt somewhat dizzy and couldn't help but ask, "What do you mean you don't feel anything? Could it be that you don't feel anything special about the changes in your body?" Qin Chuan very honestly shook his head and said, "I really don't feel anything special. I also don't know what is going on here." Lion Baron and Ma Zhaoan, standing at one side, heard the conversation between Qin Chuan and Yao Rao and couldn't help but look at each other in dismay. They were completely unable to understand what Qin Chuan and Yao Rao were talking about. "I think we shouldn't talk about this for now. Let's leave this place first and talk about other things on the way." Lion Baron looked at everyone and said, "Although Black Flood Dragon King has retreated, but he must be extremely unwilling in his heart. Perhaps he will call his friends to make a comeback. So we should be a bit more careful and leave this place as soon as possible." Hearing Lion Baron, everyone immediately took action and once again mounted their Pegasus and set off towards Heavenly Demon Mountain. And on the way, Qin Chuan began to concentrate on studying the two eggs in his body. First was that golden pellet in his brain domain. Qin Chuan had a very deep impression of this golden pellet. This golden pellet had appeared when he had advanced to Foundation Establishment Realm. At that time, Song had told him that this golden pellet would certainly be useful in the future, but until now, this golden pellet hadn't shown any usefulness. And now, because of Phoenix's true meaning, this golden pellet had turned into pure golden color, which made him even more confused. As for the golden egg in his dantian, Qin Chuan temporarily called it a small golden core. Qin Chuan speculated that this small golden core should have evolved from the true intent of the phoenix that had disappeared. The divine fire was released by this small golden core. As for whether this small golden core had any other effects, further tests were needed to know. Thinking of the two eggs, one big and one small, Qin Chuan felt a little melancholy. Which normal person would be willing to have so many inexplicable things in their body? Because of what happened in the Celestial Phoenix Plateau, Qin Chuan and the others did not stop along the way. Finally, 7 days later, they entered the Celestial Demon Plateau. As the only mountain peak in the celestial demon plains, Mount Tianyao was also the highest place in the entire celestial demon plains. The moment Qin Chuan entered the celestial demon plains, he saw Mount Tianyao from afar and was shocked by how tall and steep it was. Is this Mount Tianyao? Qin Chuan looked at the distant mountain peak that was as if a sharp sword piercing through the clouds, then said to Yarao, "Aren't you afraid it will collapse?" When I saw the whole picture of Mount Tianyao for the first time, I also had the same thought as you. At that time, Father Emperor told me that as long as Demon World didn't die, Mount Tianyao would not collapse. Yarao slightly smiled, then said to Qin Chuan, "Mount Tianyao is the symbol of my demon world and also the lifeline of my demon world. As long as Demon World doesn't die, Mount Tianyao will always exist." Hearing Yarao's words, Lion Duke sighed and said, "I have also heard this in the past. Heavenly Demon Mountain is indeed the lifeline of Demon World. If Heavenly Demon Mountain falls one day, then Demon World will not be far from destruction." Having heard what was said, Qin Chuan took a deep look at Mount Tianyao, then asked, could it be that no one deliberately destroyed Mount Tianyao? Mount Tianyao seems weak, but in fact, it is indestructible. It is not something that can be destroyed by human power. Yarao said to Qin Chuan, "Otherwise, wouldn't your human race directly send experts to destroy Mount Tianyao? Then wouldn't our demon world perish?" Qin Chuan felt that what Yarao said was somewhat reasonable. He even suspected that the experts of human race should have secretly done this kind of thing a long time ago. Otherwise, this conclusion couldn't be made by demon race themselves. Using their own lifeline as an experiment, this was absolutely not something an ordinary person could do. "Big cousin, do you want to go up the mountain with us?" Qin Chuan turned his head and looked at Lion Duke. "How about you find a place to stay by yourself for a period of time?" Qin Chuan knew about the matter between Lion Duke and Demon Court. He knew that Lion Duke must have resentment towards Demon Court in his heart. Lion Duke probably also didn't want to go to Mount Tianyao to face those people of Demon Court. "Ha ha ha! Boy, are you afraid that I won't be happy?" Lion Duke laughed. "If it was in the past, I might have listened to your advice and gone to other places to hide. But now, I'm no longer the same person. I have long forgotten about the unhappy past." Lion Duke laughed. "That's right." Lion Duke smiled and patted Qin Chuan's shoulder. "Your intention is enough. I will accompany you to Mount Tianyao. If that guy Yao Feng wants to make things difficult for you, I can help you deal with him." Lion King, Father Emperor will absolutely not make things difficult for Qin Chuan. Yarao firmly said, "You must have some misunderstanding about Father Emperor." "Whether I have some misunderstanding about Yao Feng or not, you will naturally know later." Lion Duke chuckled. "Let's wait and see." Mount Tianyao, Heavenly Demon Temple. Yao Feng was wearing a bright yellow robe. He was standing in front of the stairs and looking into the distance. He seemed to be able to see two heavenly horses coming towards him. "Your Majesty, this is a report from a few days ago." Demon Empress Xue Qiu handed a report to Yao Feng and said, 7 days ago, a great battle broke out in Sky Phoenix Plain. 6 demon kings were fighting each other, and when the real dragon was angry, lightning fell from the sky and scared the other demon kings away. Now, the entire demon realm is talking about this. When Yao Feng heard this, he smiled and asked, "Qiu'er, how much of this do you think is true?" "Many people saw the battle with their own eyes." "It should be true," Xue Qiu replied. The octagonal guards confirmed it. Qin Chuan really did injure Xue Qiu and Old Crow. He also scared the other demon kings away. Is this Qin Chuan really that powerful? Yao Feng was skeptical. Is he really that person's son? When Xue Qiu heard Yao Feng mention that person, her expression changed. She whispered, "Whether or not he is that person's son, we will know after we meet him. Even if he is that person's son, he cannot kidnap our daughter so easily." Yao Feng pursed his lips and said to Bai Qiu, "Ask the general manager to send out invitations to the various kings. Tomorrow, I will invite all the kings to the Heavenly Demon Temple. Tell them that it is to choose a groom for Jin. They will know what to do." When Xue Qiu heard this, She was a little hesitant. Will Jean be unhappy? Jean will only be unhappy after the event, Yao Feng said plainly. We know in our hearts that it is for her own good. That is enough. Chapter 559. For some reason, after approaching Mount Tianyao, Qin Chuan suddenly had an inexplicable feeling in his heart. The closer he got to Mount Tianyao, the stronger this feeling became. It didn't feel like a warning, but more like a guide. What's wrong with you? Liu Baron noticed that something was wrong with Qin Chuan's mood, so he asked curiously, Do you feel something? Qin Chuan looked at Liu Baron with some surprise and asked, Do you feel the same? Liu Baron looked at Qin Chuan and said, It's not just me. Every shifter who gets close to Mount Tianyao has this feeling. Hearing Liu Baron's words, Qin Chuan's face couldn't help but show a touch of surprise. He asked, Everyone has this feeling? Why is that? Liu Baron looked at Qin Chuan deeply and asked, What did I just say? Did you listen carefully? Qin Chuan subconsciously repeated, You just said that every shifter who gets close to Mount Tianyao has a shifter? Qin Chuan stopped and looked at Liu Baron in shock. He pointed at himself and asked with some confusion, You just said, all shifter, including me? Liu Baron nodded and looked at Qin Chuan deeply. He said, Haven't you noticed? Or perhaps you've already realized it, but you're unwilling to admit it. After experiencing so many things, you're no longer a pure human. You're now half human and half demon. You're even closer to the demon race. Every shifter who gets close to Mount Tianyao will have a feeling that they're being guided. Maybe our feelings are wrong, but Mount Tianyao has never been wrong for thousands of years. Qin Chuan looked at Liu Baron in a daze. He didn't know what to say. Facing Qin Chuan's slightly confused eyes, Liu Baron sighed and said, I can understand your feelings. After all, it is difficult for normal people to accept the fact that a human has turned into a shifter. In fact, you should know in your heart that when you advance to the foundation establishment stage, the Dan that was produced in your brain was your shifter Dan. Now, the small golden Dan in your Dantian may become a real golden Dan after you advance to the gold core stage. At that time, you will truly control the true meaning of the phoenix. Hearing Liu Baron's words, Qin Chuan fell into a long silence. Liu Baron was right. In fact, when he advanced to the foundation establishment stage and the half-blue and half-gold Dan appeared in his brain, he was already vaguely aware of this in his heart. However, he couldn't face this matter for a long time, so he deliberately chose to ignore it. Until now, nearly a year had passed, and he hadn't studied the Dan in his brain. If it weren't for the appearance of the small golden Dan in his Dantian, he wouldn't have realized that the Dan in his brain had changed. Now, his deliberate neglect was mercilessly exposed by Liu Baron. He could no longer bury his head in the sand like an ostrich and pretend that nothing had happened. He had to face this cruel reality. Seeing Qin Chuan didn't speak, Liu Baron somewhat curiously asked, Are you very resistant to the identity of demon race? Qin Chuan shook his head. He wasn't resistant to becoming a demon race, but now he couldn't be regarded as a demon race. Strictly speaking, he should be a half-demon race. He was neither a demon race nor a human race. If this matter spread out, he could imagine that he would certainly not be accepted by demon race nor human race. Even in World Mountain, which was extremely tolerant, he would be an alien, and he didn't want to be an alien that wasn't accepted by this world. Seeing Qin Chuan still didn't speak, Liu Baron knew that Qin Chuan's mood at this time must be very chaotic, and he didn't know how to face this reality, so he didn't ask anymore. He believed that if he gave Qin Chuan a little more time, he would certainly adjust his state of mind and face everything head-on. We are about to arrive at Heavenly Demon Mountain. Yao Rao didn't notice the subtle atmosphere between Qin Chuan and Liu Baron. She seemed very happy as she was about to return home. Hearing Yao Rao, Qin Chuan reluctantly smiled. Finally, I can see the legendary Heavenly Demon Temple and see Demon Emperor. I am looking forward to it. I am also looking forward to your meeting. Yao Rao's eyes shyly looked at Qin Chuan, and then she quickly turned her head away. Imperial Father has always liked to communicate with young talents. When the time comes, if Imperial Father asks you something, then if there's anything you don't understand, then boldly ask. Don't be afraid. Qin nodded his head, I know. While everyone was talking, the flying speed of Heavenly Horse had already slowed down, and Heavenly Demon Mountain was close at hand. At this time, they were only a kilometer away from Heavenly Demon Mountain. Qin could already clearly see the whole picture of Heavenly Demon Mountain, but because of the concealment of the array, he couldn't see Heavenly Demon Temple. Moreover, Heavenly Demon Mountain was far steeper than he had imagined. West Lulu, under the control of Ma Jiawen, Heavenly Horse slowly landed on the platform in front of them. At this moment, there were already guards of Heavenly Demon Temple waiting on the platform. Seeing Yaorao and others had arrived, they immediately knelt down on one knee and respectfully shouted, Greetings to Princess. Everyone get up. Yaorao casually waved her hand. Go back to your work. Hearing the words of Yaorao, the guards nevertheless didn't leave. Rather respectfully said to Yaorao, Princess, His Majesty has ordered that after you return, you should immediately go to the rear hall to pay your respects. As for the others, they will be arranged to stay in the guest rooms by Deputy General Manager. See you tomorrow. Hearing this, Yaorao slightly frowned and asked, See you tomorrow? Is this the arrangement of Father Emperor? The guard nodded his head. This humble one doesn't dare to falsely pass the decree of Demon Emperor. I know, you all can go back. Yaorao impatiently waved her hand, hinting the guard to leave. Then she turned towards Qin and said, I'm truly sorry. I didn't expect Father Emperor would issue such decree. Wait for me. Before Yaorao finished speaking, she was interrupted by Qin. He chuckled and said, It doesn't matter. Demon Emperor is very busy every day, so it is normal that he doesn't have time to see us today. Moreover, you have just returned, so Demon Emperor will definitely want to reunite with you and share the joy of family reunion. We're not in a hurry, just wait for one day. What Qin said is very reasonable. We are somewhat in a sorry state on the way here. If we don't tidy up before we're going to see His Majesty, then that would be disrespectful to His Majesty. Ma Jiawen also said, You can go back first. See you tomorrow. Yaorao nodded her head, then turned around and walked towards Heavenly Demon Temple. As for Qin and others, there would naturally be other people to make arrangements for them. Looking at the departing back view of Yaorao, Lion Duke chuckled towards Qin and said, Now you believe my words, that Yao Feng fellow will definitely make things difficult for you. Qin faintly smiled and replied, I am not afraid. Chapter 560. Imperial Father. Yaorao shouted while running towards the back of the palace. When she saw Yao Feng and Xueqiu were sitting on chairs, she immediately stepped forward and said coquettishly, Imperial Father, daughter is back. You're back. Yao Feng looked at Yao Rao, who was walking towards him, and chuckled. His expression was very calm. Xueqiu held Yao Rao's hand with kind expression and said with a smile, You went out for a few days. How come you have lost weight? Girls should be skinnier to look better. Yao Rao smiled, then turned towards Yao Feng and said, Imperial Father, why did you want me to come here alone to pay my respects and not see anyone else? Yao Feng indifferently said, You are my daughter, so I naturally want to see you first before seeing anyone else. But we can obviously see everyone together. Yao Rao looked at Yao Feng with subtle expression. Imperial Father, do you have some opinion about Qin and want to make things difficult for Qin? Hearing Yao Rao's words, Xueqiu subconsciously took a glance at Yao Feng, and the expression on her face also became somewhat strange. And this trace of strangeness was caught by Yao Rao. Without waiting for Yao Feng to speak, Yao Rao said to Xueqiu, Imperial Mother, quickly tell me. Facing Yao Rao's question, Xueqiu didn't know how to answer, so she could only throw the question to Yao Feng. You should ask your Imperial Father. Hearing this, Yao Rao immediately turned her gaze towards Yao Feng. Her face was filled with curiosity. She really wanted to hear how her Imperial Father would answer this question. At this moment, she really didn't want Lion Duke's prophecy to come true. Yao Feng seriously looked at Yao Rao and asked, let me ask you, do you really like that Qin Chuan? Hearing Yao Feng's question, Yao Rao's face slightly reddened, then asked, why are you asking this? Although Yao Rao didn't answer Yao Feng's question, but her expression already explained everything. Yao Feng sighed, then said to Yao Rao, the man my daughter likes, the future man, must be the most outstanding man in this world. Do you agree with Imperial Father's words? Yao Rao nodded her head and said, Father Emperor is right. Only the most outstanding man in this world is worthy of Rao. In the heart of Yao Rao, the most outstanding man in this world was Qin Chuan, and among the people of the same age, no one could be compared with Qin Chuan. Seeing Yao Rao nodding her head, Yao Feng continued, so, if Father Emperor wants to test the most outstanding male student in your heart, will you be angry? Hearing Yao Feng's words, Yao Rao pondered for a moment, then asked, Imperial Father, you arranged to meet Qin Chuan tomorrow. Is there any other matter? Yao Feng nodded honestly and replied, Father has already sent the chief steward to invite all the royal subordinates to the banquet tomorrow. Father will choose a prince consort for you at the banquet. The one who is the most outstanding in every aspect will win. Choose a prince consort. Hearing this, Yao Rao was shocked. Father Emperor, why didn't you discuss such an important matter with me? Didn't I discuss it with you? Yao Feng deeply looked at Yao Rao and asked, could it be that you don't have confidence in Qin Chuan? Could it be that you don't believe that Qin Chuan can defeat all his opponents? It's not like that. Yao Rao was somewhat anxious. I have an agreement with Qin Chuan. An agreement? Yao Feng slightly narrowed his eyes. What agreement? Yao Rao shook her head and said, this is the agreement between me and Qin Chuan. I can't tell you. In any case, I won't agree to choose a prince consort. You still don't believe that Qin Chuan will win? Yao Feng said meaningfully. Or perhaps, you know that Qin Chuan won't participate in the prince consort selection tomorrow, so you want to prevent it from happening. Hearing this, Yao Rao opened her mouth, but she couldn't say anything to defend herself. Seeing the expression on Yao Rao's face, Yao Feng's face suddenly sunk, and he asked, what is that brat trying to do? He didn't do anything. This is my business. Yao Rao hurriedly said, Father Emperor, don't force us, okay? You, Yao Feng said in a deep voice. You think that Father Emperor is hindering you? You think that Father Emperor is trying to harm you? That's not what I mean. Yao Rao was anxious. I just think that this kind of thing can only happen if both parties are in love with each other. This kind of thing, like choosing a prince consort, is not reliable. Enough. You don't need to say anymore. Yao Feng said coldly. Now, Father Emperor can tell you clearly that tomorrow's prince consort selection is not going to be canceled. If Qin Chuan doesn't want to participate, then don't think that the two of you can be together. Father Emperor, Yao Rao couldn't understand why Father Emperor must make things difficult for them. Rao, seeing Yao Rao was anxious, Xueqiu hurriedly said to Yao Rao, calm down first. Think about it carefully. If Qin Chuan really likes you, then he has no reason to refuse to participate in tomorrow's prince consort selection, right? But, no buts. Xueqiu seriously looked at Yao Rao. In this matter, your Father Emperor and I are standing on the same side. There is no room for discussion. What you need to do now is not to persuade me and your Father Emperor to change our mind. Rather, you need to make Qin Chuan change his mind. Do you understand? Seeing her mother, who doted on her the most, was not willing to speak up for her, Yao Rao's eyes couldn't help but turn red. Then she said in a somewhat choked voice, Mother Emperor, even you are forcing me. We are not forcing you. We're doing this for your own good. Xueqiu helplessly said, if you insist on clinging to your own way, then you are forcing me and your Father Emperor. I know. Yao Rao got up and walked outside, then quickly left the rear hall. Looking at the departing figure of Yao Rao, Xueqiu's eyes were filled with heartache, then couldn't help but said to Yao Feng, Your Majesty, did we make a mistake? Yao Feng looked forward with profound gaze, then said in deep voice, The one who is wrong is absolutely not us. Qin Chuan. When Qin Chuan, who was resting in the room, heard the shout from outside, his face couldn't help but reveal a touch of surprise. He was about to get up and go out, but the door was pushed open from outside, and the person who came in was Yao Rao. Seeing the tear stains on the face of Yao Rao, Qin Chuan was greatly surprised, then asked, "What happened to you?" "Qin Chuan." Yao Rao sadly looked at Qin Chuan. "Father Emperor is going to select Prince Consort for me tomorrow." Hearing Yao Rao, Qin Chuan couldn't help but was startled. Demon Emperor is going to select Prince Consort for Yao Rao, and is also scheduled for tomorrow? "Qin Chuan, take me away. Otherwise, I might not be able to fulfill the agreement between you and me." Yao Rao looked at Qin Chuan in despair. "I am really in despair." "What despair?" Qin Chuan frowned and said, "Could it be that your father Emperor doesn't allow me to participate?" Hearing this, Yao Rao was slightly startled, but soon her face revealed a touch of pleasant surprise, then eagerly asked, "You are willing to participate?" "Why wouldn't I be willing?" Qin Chuan faintly smiled, then reached out his hand to wipe the tears from the corner of Yao Rao's eyes. "My princess, don't tell me that I shouldn't protect you." Chapter 561. Tiger King Division. In a magnificent palace, the Tiger King sat on the throne and calmly looked at the handsome young man below the stage. He asked, "Shower, the Demon King will hold a banquet at the Heavenly Demon Temple tomorrow to choose the Prince Consort for Princess Rao. Are you ready?" "Father, I'm ready." Hu Shao looked at the Tiger King confidently. "I will definitely win and marry Princess Rao." "Very good." The Tiger King looked deeply at Hu Shao. "Princess Rao is the Demon King's only daughter. If you marry her, you will most likely become the new Demon King after 100 years. So you can't lose the Prince Consort selection tomorrow." Hu Shao nodded when he heard that. "I understand, but you need to pay attention to someone. His name is Qin Chuan." The Tiger King's tone was serious. "Recently, the demon realm has been very lively because of this person." Hu Shao looked at the Tiger King and said, "I've heard of this person. He's a genius from the Star Dragon Federation. He had some contact with Princess Rao in the Carefree Secret Realm. Don't underestimate him. He has the blood of the true dragon in his body. He's the only descendant of the true dragon in the demon realm in the last 10,000 years. You better not lose to him because of carelessness." The Tiger King said, "I won't be careless." Hu Zhao's face was serious. "And I won't let you down. All right, you may leave." Tiger King waved his hand. "Don't continue cultivating today. Have a good rest and adjust your condition. Be prepared for tomorrow's battle. I'll take my leave." Hu Shao slowly retreated, then turned and left the palace. After Hu Shao left, a figure suddenly appeared beside the Tiger King. It was the Tiger Marquis of the Tiger King Division. He was also the strongest person in the Tiger King Division other than the Tiger King. "Second brother, what do you think are Shower's chances of winning against that Qin Chuan?" The Tiger King looked at the Tiger Marquis. "Answer me seriously." "Big brother, Shower is the most outstanding genius in the Tiger King Division in the last 1,000 years. At the same time, he's also the most outstanding genius in the entire demon realm. I don't think Qin Chuan can be compared to Shower." Hu Ho chuckled. "In my opinion, Big Brother is overthinking things. Moreover, do you think the Demon Emperor will allow Princess Rao to marry a human?" "Human?" Tiger King sneered. "That Qin Chuan may not be a human." The Tiger Marquis was surprised and asked, "Big Brother, what do you mean?" The Tiger King looked at the Tiger Marquis meaningfully and said, "If Qin Chuan was really a human, then he might have died in the World Mountain." The next morning, Lion Duke and Qin Chuan were eating breakfast at the stone table in the courtyard. They talked about the Prince Consort while they ate. "Are you ready?" Lion Duke looked at Qin Chuan. "The Crown Princes are not easy to deal with." Hearing Lion Duke's words, Qin Chuan nodded and said, "I'm ready. I can't back down." Sometimes, plans can't keep up with changes. When he was at the Pegasus Station, he had an agreement with Yao Rao. It was to give each other some time to think about it, and not to make a decision on impulse. But when he was at the Sky Phoenix Plateau, because of the true meaning of the phoenix, he became a fat piece of meat in the eyes of the Demon King. Yaorao stood up for him and would rather die than back down. This made him feel touched and guilty at the same time. Yaorao, as a girl, didn't abandon him and stood in front of him without hesitation when he was at his most dangerous and most helpless time. He, as a man, had no reason to hesitate when Yaorao was crying to him. If he really did that, then he would have let down Yaorao's feelings, and he wouldn't deserve to be called a man. Seeing the firm look on Qinchuan's face, Lion Duke knew that Qinchuan was ready. He chuckled and said to Qinchuan, "Good boy, I am optimistic about you. I am waiting for you to kill everyone." "Big cousin, how much do you know about the king divisions?" Qinchuan asked curiously. "How many king divisions are there in the demon world?" "Every race of the demon race has a king division. And in the demon world, only 10 divisions have been recognized by the Demon Emperor. They are Tiger King Division, Wolf King Division, Lion King Division, Fox King Division, Ox King Division, Bear King Division, Elephant King Division, Flood Dragon King Division, Peacock King Division, and Whale King Division. The Black Flood Dragon King you met before is from Flood Dragon King Division. He is a famous great demon of Flood Dragon King Division. And Yao Feng's wife, Yaorao's mother Xueqiu, is from Fox King Division. She was the most famous beauty of the demon world." Hearing Lion Duke, Qinchuan asked curiously, "Who is the strongest among these 10 divisions?" "Of course, Tiger King Division and Flood Dragon King Division are the strongest." Lion Duke answered without thinking. "Tiger King Division is the strongest on land, and Flood Dragon King Division is the strongest in the sea. Because my foundation was damaged in the early years, and I have not been out for almost 100 years, I do not know much about the crown princes of the various king divisions. You can ask the little girl from Heavenly Horse Division. She will know." Lion Duke patted Qinchuan's shoulder. "But you can relax. I don't think any of these crown princes are stronger than you." Qinchuan heard that and asked again, "How do these crown princes compare to the holy sons and holy daughters?" "In the demon world, only a few special tribes have a right to make holy sons and holy daughters. For example, Heavenly Horse Division and Heavenly Rock Division. As for how these holy sons and holy daughters compare to the crown princes of the king divisions, I do not know. I know that." At this moment, Ma Jiawen suddenly walked into the courtyard. She greeted Lion Duke first, then continued to talk to Qinchuan. "The holy sons and holy daughters of the various divisions are about the same as the crown princes of the king divisions. However, there are 3 tribes that are different." Qinchuan asked curiously, "Which 3? Ma Jiawen looked at Qinchuan seriously and said, "Tiger King Division, Flood Dragon King Division, and Lion King Division." Without waiting for Qinchuan to ask again, Ma Jiawen continued, "Tiger King Division's Crown Prince Hu Shao, Flood Dragon King Division's Crown Prince Long Xing, and Lion King Division's Crown Prince Shirkong. These 3 are the strongest among us. Among them, Tiger King Division's Crown Prince Hu Shao is one of a kind. He is recognized as the strongest of the younger generation in the demon world." Qinchuan narrowed his eyes and whispered, "If that's the case, I should pay attention to this Hu Shao." "Qinchuan, don't be careless. Hu Shao is really strong. At the very least, he is not weaker than you," Ma Jiawen said seriously. "Moreover, I heard that Hu Shao had just completed a trace back to origin not long ago. His strength must have become stronger." "Trace back to origin?" Lion Duke was a little surprised. "If that's the case, this Hu Shao is really not bad." Although Qinchuan did not know what trace back to origin meant, since Lion Duke said so, it meant that Hu Shao was really strong. It was very likely that Hu Shao would become his biggest opponent. Chapter 562. After recovering from his shock, Lion Duke explained to Qinchuan, "Going back to the origin means to trace the bloodline of the ancestors. There were 4 mythical beasts in ancient times: the azure dragon, the white tiger, the vermilion bird, and the black tortoise. The ancestor of the Tiger King tribe was the white tiger. If Hu Shao can trace the bloodline of the white tiger, then he is not to be underestimated. He will definitely become the biggest obstacle in your path to becoming the emperor's son-in-law. Lion Duke paused for a moment before continuing, but compared to you, he is still a little lacking. Qin Chuan and Ma Jiawen were stunned. Lion Duke had never seen Hu Xiao before. How did he know that Hu Xiao was a little lacking compared to Qin Chuan? Lion Duke smiled when he saw Qin Chuan's confusion. He explained to Qin Chuan, "Don't tell me you have forgotten about the senior at the bottom of the Dragon Spirit Lake?" Qin Chuan was stunned when he heard Lion Duke's words. Then, a look of shock appeared on his face as he said, "Is that the azure dragon of the 4 mythical beasts?" Lion Duke nodded and said to Qin Chuan, "You are right. That is the head of the 4 mythical beasts, the azure dragon. You've obtained that person's inheritance and inherited that person's bloodline will. It's far purer and stronger than Hu Zhao's bloodline will that traced back to its origin. Hee. Don't tell me you think that just any dragon's blood can save a great demon?" After hearing Lion Duke's words, Qin Chuan couldn't help but fall into a deep shock. He never thought that the Azure Dragon Songhao at the bottom of the Dragon Spirit Lake was actually the leader of the 4 legendary divine beasts. The Azure Dragon, Ma Jiawen, who was standing at the side, was also in a daze. She could not believe what she had just heard. Qin Chuan actually knew a divine beast, Azure Dragon, and he had even obtained the inheritance of that Azure Dragon. "What you just said, is it true?" Ma Jiawen looked at Qin Chuan and Lion Duke in shock. "Are there really mythical beasts in this world?" Lion Duke glanced at Ma Jiawen and said, "What's so strange about that? Don't tell me you don't know that Yao Feng and Yao Rao are the divine beast vermilion bird." This time it was Qin Chuan's turn to be shocked. He had thought that Yao Rao's true form was Fire Phoenix. Never had he thought that she was actually one of the 4 god beasts, vermilion bird. "Of course I know that His Majesty the Demon King and Princess Rao are the divine beast vermilion bird. It's just that I originally thought that only the vermilion bird existed in this world. I didn't think that there would be an azure dragon. Furthermore, Qin Chuan has also become a divine beast." Ma Jiawen felt that her brain wasn't working properly. Just how heaven-defying was Qin Chuan's luck to be able to obtain the inheritance of the azure dragon? She had always thought that Qin Chuan was lucky enough to obtain some dragon blood. Qin Chuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he said to Ma Jiawen, "I am not a divine beast, and I also didn't obtain the inheritance of Senior. However, Senior had indeed given me pointers, and I had also obtained a lot of opportunities from Senior." Hearing Qin Chuan's explanation, Ma Jiawen looked at Qin Chuan with extremely envious eyes and said, "If I can have her luck to get to know a divine beast Senior, then I will wake up laughing even in my dreams. I am really envious, or should I say I am too jealous of you. If we really want to talk about it, that Hu Xiao can at most be regarded as one of the countless generations of descendants of divine beast White Tiger. But you are the direct descendant of divine beast Azure Dragon. I don't need to explain the disparity between you two." Lion Duke laughed. "Hu Xiao can go back to the origin, which is indeed very powerful. But you're the origin, so you don't have to go back to the origin at all. From this point of view, he is far inferior to you." "That's true, but his actual combat strength may not be worse than mine, so I still can't take it lightly." Qin Chuan pursed his lips. "No matter who the opponent is, I have to go all out." "Well said, you have to show the strength." Lion Duke applauded and said to Qin Chuan, "When the time comes, you can beat those princes to the ground. If the old ones dare to jump out, I will support you. Well, let's stop chatting. Let's go to the front hall first. If we are late, it will be bad." Ma Jiawen smiled at Qin Chuan and said, "Punctuality is also one of the characteristics of a good man. You don't want to be late for your first meeting with the Demon King, right?" Under Ma Jiawen's lead, Qin Chuan and the others quickly arrived at the front hall of the Heavenly Beast Temple. At this time, the front hall was heavily guarded, and they had to go through a strict inspection before they were allowed to enter. Just as Qin Chuan and the others were lining up for inspection, a sharp gaze from not far away attracted Qin Chuan's attention. "Who is that person?" Qin Chuan pointed at the tall, black-robed man, standing on the steps with a puzzled look on his face. He felt that this person was somewhat familiar. When Lion Duke saw the man's figure, he sneered and said to Qin Chuan, "A few days ago, he wanted to pull out your tendons and skin you and drink your heart's blood. You can't have forgotten who he is, right?" Qin Chuan couldn't help but have a cold look on his face when he heard this. He said in a deep voice, "It's him, the Black Drake King." "That's right, it's the Black Drake King." Lion Duke laughed and said to Qin Chuan, "The Black Drake King is an elder of the Drake King tribe. It's normal for him to accompany the crown prince to this banquet. Now that he's staring at you, he must be planning something." Just as Qin Chuan and Lion Duke were talking, the Black Drake King suddenly walked towards them. He stopped about 5 meters away from Qin Chuan and said, "Kid, how about I make a deal with you?" Hearing this, Qin Chuan narrowed his eyes and said coldly, "I'm not interested in making a deal with someone who wants to kill me. Young man, don't be rash when you encounter trouble. Otherwise, your path will become narrower." The Black Flood Dragon King calmly looked at Qin Chuan. "Originally, this king wanted to kill you, but now, this king has changed his mind. As long as you are willing to give this king 10 drops of your heart's blood, this king will guarantee that he will not find trouble with you in the future. Furthermore, this king will give you a great opportunity. You're a black-hearted man. 10 drops of heart's blood? What's the difference between that and taking his life?" Lion Duke laughed coldly. "I think you should just kill him." The Black Drake King looked at Lion Duke and said, "Give me 10 drops of your heart's blood, and he'll have a chance to live. But if you want me to do it again, he might not. You don't have a final say. He has the final say." Come, come, come. Lion Duke was so angry that he laughed. He said to Qin Chuan, "Tell him your choice." Qin Chuan smiled and said to Lion Duke, "It's a waste of time talking to people like him. Doesn't he want heart's blood? If I meet the Drake King tribe's crown prince later, I'll give him 10 drops of his heart's blood." Chapter 563. "Brat, are you sure you want to do this?" The Black Flood Dragon King narrowed his eyes, and his gaze sharpened as he stared at Qin Chuan. Qin Chuan wasn't afraid at all. He sneered, "Black Drake King, I respect you as a senior in the cultivation world. That's why I'm wasting my breath here. You want my life, but you want me to commit suicide. Aren't you a little too overbearing? Those who don't know better might think that the Heavenly Demon Temple is your territory and you're the Demon King. What a sharp tongue." The Black Drake King's expression turned cold. If others heard what Qin Chuan said, who knew what kind of rumors would spread? "My sharp tongue is far inferior to yours." Qin Chuan chuckled. "After all, you can take someone's life the moment you open your mouth. I'm nothing compared to you." ****. The Black Drake King was furious. As someone who cultivated in seclusion all year round, he was no match for Qin Chuan in terms of eloquence. Ma Jiawen almost couldn't help but laugh when she saw how Qin Chuan made the Black Drake King speechless with just a few words. Lion Duke, on the other hand, laughed loudly. He didn't give the Black Drake King any face at all. The Black Drake King knew that this wasn't the time to make a move. Staying here would only add to his troubles. He snorted and said to Qin Chuan, "When the election comes, I'll make you regret what you said today." With that, the Black Flood Dragon King left in a huff. Looking at the Black Drake King's back, Qin Chuan's smile gradually disappeared. He looked at Ma Jiawen and asked, "The crown prince of the Drake King tribe is the Longxing you mentioned, right?" Ma Jiawen nodded. She looked at Qin Chuan with a strange expression and asked, "You're not really going to take the blood from Longxing's heart, are you?" Qin Chuan looked at Ma Jiawen and asked, "Am I such a cruel person in your eyes?" "I'm just saying." Hearing Qin Chuan's words, Ma Jiawen looked at Qin Chuan strangely. Casually speaking, why did she feel that he was serious? Front hall. Yao Feng sat on the golden chair and looked at the chief steward standing in front of him. He listened to the chief steward describe what happened on the stairs in front of the palace. "According to what you said, the Black Flood Dragon King wanted to take Qin Chuan's heart blood, but Qin Chuan retorted and wanted to take the Flood Dragon King's crown, Prince Longxing's heart blood, as a gift to the Black Flood Dragon King?" "Indeed," the chief butler replied respectfully, "Your Majesty is absolutely right. Since that's the case, let's grant them their wish." Yao Feng took a deep look at the general manager. Arrange for Qin Chuan to meet Long Xing, the chief steward said in a low voice, but Qin Chuan hasn't confirmed his participation yet. Shauna left in tears yesterday, but came back happily. It must be because Qin Chuan agreed to let her participate in the competition, Yao Feng said in a subtle tone. Just make the arrangements. He will participate. Yes, your Majesty's will is our command. The chief steward did not ask any more questions and agreed respectfully. According to the Heavenly Beast Temple's rules, everyone had to be present before they could enter. Qin Chuan and the others stood in the square outside the hall, forming a small group of their own. They chose to ignore the inquisitive gazes of the others. Even so, there were still people who came to look for them. Greetings, Senior. I am Shirkong, the elegant crown prince of the Lion King tribe. Shirkong walked up to Lion Lord and bowed respectfully. Seeing this, Qin Chuan looked at Lion Lord curiously. He did not expect the crown prince of the Lion King tribe to take the initiative to look for Lion Lord. Speaking of which, what was the relationship between the Lion King tribe and the Lion King tribe? Under Qin Chuan's curious gaze, Lion Lord looked at Shirkong and said, I have left the Lion King tribe. Naturally, I have nothing to do with the Lion King tribe. There is no need for you to come here and greet me. Hearing Lion Duke's words, Lion Kong pursed his lips slightly and said in a very serious tone, No matter what, you will always be my senior. Lion Lord looked at Shirkong and said, Let's go. Shirkong did not linger and said respectfully, I will take my leave now. Looking at Shirkong's back, Lion Lord's eyes flashed with a complicated look. He whispered to Qin Chuan, The Lion King tribe is a branch of the Lion King tribe. I used to be a member of the Lion King tribe. When the Crown Prince was young, I gave him some pointers. Qin Chuan was puzzled, so he asked, How did your relationship become like this? Because of Shi Fun, Lion Lord said lightly. Shi Fun is a member of the Lion King tribe. He is also Shirkong's uncle. Hearing Lion Duke's explanation, Qin Chuan's face couldn't help but reveal a look of understanding. Shi Fun, who had taken away Lion Duke's position as the Lion King, was Shirkong's uncle. And Shi Fun had caused the Lion tribe to suffer heavy losses in the East Mountain front line. No wonder Lion Duke's attitude toward Shirkong was so cold. Speaking of which, what's the situation with Shi Fun? Qin Chuan looked at Ma Jiawen curiously. You should know, right? Ma Jiawen nodded and said, Because of Senior Lion King's appearance, Lion Fun was released. However, he lost his Lion King status and returned to the Lion King tribe with his tail between his legs. Hearing Ma Jiawen's answer, Qin Chuan curiously asked, Who is the current Lion King? Ma Jiawen looked at Lion Lord and said to Qin Chuan, There is no Lion King in the Lion tribe. Shirkong is temporarily leading the Lion tribe. But the Heavenly Beast Temple has given you the title of Lion King. As long as you are willing, you can take back what once belonged to you. That won't be necessary. Lion Lord coldly said, I don't care about these things anymore. I don't know the Lion King tribe anything. I have done my best for the Lion tribe. Whoever wants the title of Lion King can take it. Little girl, you don't have to call me Senior Lion King anymore. Just like Qin Chuan, you can call me Big Cousin. Big Cousin? Hearing Lion Lord, Ma Jiawen's face looked strange. That was a special title. Qin Chuan, on the other hand, wanted to laugh. Was Lion Duke used to being a big cousin? Suddenly, a tall figure wearing a purple robe appeared in the plaza. He looked at the crowd and said, Everyone, it is time to enter the palace. When they saw this person appear, the crowd in the plaza immediately quietened down. One by one, they bowed and paid their respects to this person. When Qin Chuan saw this, he curiously asked Ma Jiawen, Who is this person? He is the Heavenly Beast Temple's general manager, Monster 9. He is the closest person to the Demon King. He is also the second strongest person in the Heavenly Beast Temple. Ma Jiawen whispered to Qin Chuan, Even the Black Dragon King, who is yelling at you, has to behave in front of him. I heard that he once beat the Black Dragon King up. When Qin Chuan heard this, he looked at General Steward 9 Demon in shock. It seemed that this General Steward was not weak. Chapter 564. According to the order, Qin Xuan and the others were the last to enter. Ma Jiawen explained to Qin Xuan, "Big cousin hasn't accepted his identity as Lion King yet. He's just a demon king. The two of us are nothing in front of this crowd, so we'll be the last to enter." After he said that, Ma Jiawen couldn't help but look at Lion Duke with a strange expression. It felt strange to call an old archfiend king cousin. "I don't care about that." Qin Xuan looked at Lion King and said, "What about you, big cousin? It's just a seat. I don't care." Lion King wasn't the Lion King he used to be. This kind of thing didn't matter to him. Seeing that Lion King didn't care, Qin Xuan and Ma Jiawen didn't say anything. They lined up at the end of the line, waiting to enter. But then, Ninth Demon walked over. He stood in front of Lion King and asked, "Are you really not going to come back?" Lion King looked at Ninth Demon coldly and asked, "What? Do you have a problem with that?" Ninth Demon shook his head and sighed. "I don't have a problem with that. I just think it's a shame that we lost a great demon like you. After all, you used to be the face of the demon realm. If you really think it's a shame, you wouldn't have left me in the lurch." Lion Duke smiled faintly. "If it were me in the past, I would have fought with you in this square." Ninth Demon shook his head again and said calmly, "Today is a big day. I can't fight with you. You know very well who was behind what happened back then, so I won't explain further. Don't be unreasonable. If you don't want to explain, then I'm not going to waste my time talking to you. Get lost." Lion King looked annoyed. "Just looking at you makes me annoyed." Hearing Lion King talk to Ninth Demon like that, Qin Xuan's eyes widened. His cousin's temper was a bit too big. He was yelling at Sky Beast Temple's manager. Wasn't he afraid of being kicked out? But Demon Nine's temper was surprisingly good. He did not want to argue with Lion Duke, so he just turned around and left. He left just like that? Qin Xuan was stunned. "Didn't you say he was very fierce?" "What? If he can scare the Black King Drake, does he think he can scare me too?" Lion Duke looked displeased. "This time, I'm scolding him. Next time, I'm going to hit him." Seeing Lion King being so arrogant, Qin Xuan felt as if he was getting to know Lion King all over again. He had a new understanding of Lion King's aggressiveness. But just as this thought appeared in Qin Xuan's mind, Ma Jiawen's words shattered it. Ma Jiawen quietly said to Qin Xuan, "You don't know, right? Big cousin and steward know each other. The two of them grew up together and roamed the demon realm together. They're friends who have gone through life and death together." Later, when Big Cousin became the Lion King and Steward joined the Heavenly Demon Temple, the two of them became less in touch. But even so, the two of them are still very close, so it is not a big deal for Big Cousin to scold Steward. Hearing Ma Jiawen's explanation, Qin Xuan was confused. It was no wonder Big Cousin was so arrogant. It was because he and the manager knew each other. Back then, when Eldest Cousin was in trouble, the steward didn't help. Eldest Cousin blamed the steward because of this, and the steward also felt guilty towards Eldest Cousin. It was also because of this that Eldest Cousin disliked the steward. I feel that even if Eldest Cousin really beat the steward wouldn't fight back. Qin Xuan looked at Ma Jiawen with a subtle look and said, "You know quite a lot. You must be quite gossipy." Ma Jiawen rolled her eyes at Qin Xuan. "If it weren't for Princess Rao instructing me to try my best to answer all your questions and let you know more about these people, do you think I would like to talk to you?" "So, it was Yao Rao's arrangement." Qin Xuan chuckled. "I was wondering why you were so warm to me." Ma Jiawen rolled her eyes. She was too lazy to talk to Qin Xuan. The 10 king divisions in front of them entered the palace one after another. Qin Xuan and the others were finally able to enter the palace. From the outside, Sky Beast Temple looked like an ordinary palace, but inside, it gave people a feeling of vastness and boundlessness. Ma Jiawen was like a tour guide. She introduced it to Qin Xuan. Sky Beast Temple is not just a palace. It is also a Tao artifact. It contains a universe and is ever-changing. Qin Xuan was a little surprised when he heard this. Sky Beast Temple was actually a Tao artifact. They were attending a banquet inside a Tao artifact. Among the many Tao artifacts in the demon realm, Sky Beast Temple can definitely be ranked in the top 5. I've only heard that Sky Beast Temple is very powerful. As for how powerful it is, I have never seen it. Ma Jiawen led Qin Xuan and Lion Duke to a short table at the end of the hall and sat down cross-legged. She continued, "If you have any questions, ask me as soon as possible. When His Majesty Demon Emperor comes, we won't be able to talk." When Qin Xuan heard this, he immediately asked, "What is the order of our seats?" "The strength of the king division," Ma Jiawen whispered to Qin Xuan. "The further in front, the stronger the king division is." Qin Xuan subconsciously looked at the short table at the front. He was surprised to find that there was no one there. He couldn't help but ask curiously, "Why is there no one at the first table?" "That is the seat of the Tiger King division. Hu Xiao, the heir of the Tiger King division, is definitely the person who poses the greatest threat to you. They're not here now. They must have been arranged to meet with His Majesty Demon Emperor alone." Ma Jiawen looked deeply at Qin Xuan and said seriously, "In my opinion, if there is anyone who will defeat you and become the final victor, it will definitely be Hu Xiao." Just as Qin Xuan and Ma Jiawen were talking, another group of people entered the hall. However, these people didn't come in from the main door. Instead, they came out from the depths of the hall. There were two people walking at the front. One had a tall and straight stature, and the other had a tiger's back and bear's waist. The former had a gentle aura, and the latter had an imposing aura. And behind these two people, there was a dignified woman wearing a magnificent dress and a phoenix crown on her head. The woman was accompanied by a boy and a girl. The boy was handsome and elegant. The girl was wearing a veil, so people couldn't see her appearance clearly. However, Qin Xuan recognized this girl at first glance. She was Yao Rao. As for that boy, Qin Xuan didn't need to guess. He knew that he must be the heir of the Tiger King division, Hu Xiao. The person wearing the bright yellow robe is His Majesty Demon Emperor. The person wearing the white robe is the Tiger King. That woman is the Demon Empress. The one on the right is naturally Princess Rao, and the one on the left is Hu Xiao, your biggest enemy. Ma Jiawen had a subtle look in her eyes as she looked at Demon Emperor and the others who were walking out together. Demon Emperor and Tiger King had appeared together. In addition, Hu Xiao and Yao Rao were accompanying Demon Empress on her left and right. The signal released by this was a bit too obvious. Chapter 565. The Demon Emperor has arrived. Following ninth demon's shout, everyone in the hall immediately stood up and bowed respectfully to the Demon Emperor. "Greetings, Your Majesty." The Demon Emperor and Demon Empress slowly walked to the golden dragon throne and sat down. Then they said indifferently, "Everyone, please sit down." Everyone took their seats and subconsciously looked at the Tiger King and Crown Prince Hu Xiao. Their gazes were extremely subtle. From the appearance of the Tiger King and Crown Prince Hu Xiao, it was obvious that the Demon Emperor and Demon Empress were most satisfied with Hu Xiao as their son-in-law candidate. Calling them over was just a formality. After all, their juniors knew very well that no one could be Hu Xiao's opponent. However, some people didn't think so, because, apart from the 10 king tribes, there was another special guest. That was Qin Xuan and his two companions. The Lion Duke was a famous great demon, so the people of the king's division knew him very well. As for the Heavenly Horse division's Saintess Ma Jiawen, she was Princess Rao's best friend. Even if the people of the king's division hadn't seen her before, they had at least heard of her. Therefore, the people of the king's division naturally focused on Qin Xuan. Qin Xuan was a human, but he had the bloodline of the true dragon. He also comprehended the true intent of the phoenix and could ignite the divine fire. No matter how they looked at it, he was more of a demon. It was also because of this that he had the chance to appear in the heavenly demon temple. If he was a pure human, he would be extremely lucky if he could enter the heavenly demon planes and not die. Everyone in the king tribes had heard of Qin Xuan's achievements. If there was anyone among the young people present who could pose a threat to Hu Xiao, it had to be Qin Xuan. It wasn't that the king tribes didn't have confidence in their younger generation, but the truth was right in front of them. They couldn't refute it. Just as everyone was thinking about this, Yao Feng, who was sitting on the dragon throne, calmly said to everyone, "I'm sure the chief steward has already told you the purpose of this banquet. Little Ro has reached the suitable age for marriage. As her father, I must personally choose the most suitable husband for Little Ro. Everyone here today who is under the age of 30 can participate in the selection. The final winner will be the prince consort. The selection method is very simple. Make friends through martial arts. The winner will advance, and the loser will be eliminated. Everyone only has one chance. I hope you won't be careless. Now, those who want to participate in the selection can stand up. Let me see how many of you want to be the prince consort." When Yao Feng's voice fell, Hu Xiao immediately stood up, and the person who stood up together with Hu Xiao was Qin Chuan. Both of them looked at each other in the sky, but very quickly they passed each other as if nothing had happened. But both of them were very clear in their heart that the competition had already begun from this moment. On the high platform, Yao Rao's lively eyes were looking at Qin Chuan, who had stood up, then said to Xue Qiu, who was sitting on the dragon throne, in a low voice, "Mother Empress, did you see him? He is Qin Chuan." Hearing Yao Rao, Xue Qiu seriously sized up Qin Chuan, then said in a low voice, "Outstanding talent, dignified appearance, he is actually a good young man." Xue Qiu's evaluation of Qin Chuan was not to pander to Yao Rao. Rather, it was her first impression of Qin Chuan. And when Yao Rao heard Xue Qiu's evaluation of Qin Chuan, she couldn't help but smile from ear to ear. If not for the veil covering her face, then who knows how many people would be charmed by her smile. One after another, the princes of the various great king divisions stood up. At this time, even if they were not interested in being the prince consort, they still had to stand up. Otherwise, it would be disrespectful to the demon emperor. They still understood this principle. And when Yao Feng saw all the heirs that stood up, he was naturally very satisfied. He nodded his head, then said to everyone, "Today, all 10 heirs have stood up. It seems all of you are determined to obtain the prince consort. But that young man standing at the end, you don't seem to be one of the 10 king divisions, right?" Hearing Yao Feng suddenly calling out Qin Chuan, everyone's gaze subconsciously looked towards the tall and straight figure of Qin Chuan, and their eyes were filled with deep meaning. Qin Chuan slightly smiled, then neither servile nor overbearing, he bowed towards Yao Feng, then said in a clear voice, "Junior Qin Chuan greets your majesty." "Qin Chuan, I don't seem to have heard of you." Demon Emperor slightly looked at Qin Chuan, then asked, "In front of the heirs of the 10 king divisions, you still have the guts to participate in the selection. Don't tell me you aren't afraid of death." Hearing Demon Emperor's words, Qin Chuan calmly replied, "The one who should be afraid is not me. I'm a person who doesn't know how to control my strength. If any of the heirs are afraid of death, then you can withdraw now. Otherwise, if I don't stop in time, then don't blame me for being vicious and merciless." When the heirs of the king divisions heard Qin Chuan's words, they glared at Qin Chuan. This was the first time they had seen such an arrogant person. He actually didn't put the heirs of the 10 king divisions in his eyes. "Qin Chuan, don't be too arrogant." Long Xing stared coldly at Qin Chuan. "This is not the place for you to behave atrociously." Qin Chuan looked at Long Xing, who had a pair of horns on his head, and asked with a smile, "You must be Long Xing, the heir of the King Dragon Division, right? Even your uncle, the Black King Dragon, has to run away from me. How dare you speak here?" Gasp! Hearing Qin Chuan's words, the people of the 10 king divisions couldn't help but gasp. It was fine for Qin Chuan to provoke the heirs. After all, they were all young people. It was fine for him to be a little arrogant, but Qin Chuan had openly provoked the Black King Dragon. This was a little too much. As expected, the Black King Dragon's expression turned cold, and he said in a low voice, "Brat, if you dare to speak rudely again today, even if... So what if I speak rudely? What do you do to me?" Without waiting for the Black King Dragon to finish speaking, Qin Chuan directly interrupted and said with a light laugh, "If you have the ability, then do it. I'll wait for you here." As he spoke, a flash of azure lightning lit up in Qin Chuan's palm, emitting a heart-palpitating pressure. Seeing this, everyone's expressions turned solemn, and the Black King Dragon was even more furious. However, in the face of Qin Chuan's lightning, he could only act rashly. It could be said that he was extremely sullen. When everyone saw Qin Chuan provoking the Black Jiao King in such a manner, and the Black Jiao King did nothing, they all understood what was going on. From the looks of it, the things that happened in the Heavenly Phoenix Plains were true. Qin Chuan really did have a way to suppress Demon Kings. Thinking of this, the Demon King's expressions turned ugly. As Demon Kings, when did they need to care about the attitude of a mere ant? Mother, do you see this? This is the man that Ro likes, indomitable spirit, dares to love and dares to hate. Hearing Yaorao's somewhat excited words, Xueqiu helplessly shook her head. She felt that Qin Chuan's performance was a little too much. Chapter 566. Yao Feng sat there and looked at Qin Chuan with great interest. He found it amusing to see Qin Chuan provoking the 10 crown princes and the Black King Dragon. In the past, all the young people he met would try their best to show their maturity, elegance, and friendliness in front of him. They wanted to leave a good impression on him. Even the crown prince of the Tiger King tribe, Hu Shao, was no exception. However, Qin Chuan did not care about that. He wanted to be arrogant to the end. I'm not looking down on anyone. I just want to say that all the crown princes here are trash. Qin Chuan said arrogantly, "If your majesty allows it, I'm willing to fight against 10 crown princes and end this selection quickly." Wow. This time, the Heavenly Demon Temple was in an uproar. Qin Chuan's words showed that he did not treat the crown princes of the 10 king tribes as human beings. 1 against 10? Did he think he was participating in a challenge at the World Mountain? Qin Chuan, don't be presumptuous. Xiang Di, the crown prince of the Elephant King tribe, shouted angrily. This is the Heavenly Demon Temple. It's not a place for you to behave atrociously. All right, all of you shut up. Just as Qin Chuan was about to speak, Yao Feng, who was sitting on the high platform, suddenly spoke. The noisy hall quickly quieted down. Everyone looked at Yao Feng and waited for his instructions. It's good for young people to be confident. However, if you're overconfident, you'll become conceited. That's not good. Yao Feng looked at Qin Chuan calmly and said, "Rules are rules. Even if you have the ability to fight against 10 crown princes, you have to follow the rules and fight one battle at a time." Qin Chuan immediately said, "Your Majesty is right." After that, Qin Chuan quieted down. It was as if his provocation had never happened. When everyone saw this, they were a little angry. The Demon Emperor did not punish this brat. He was letting him off too easily. Since Qin Chuan came all the way from the Star Dragon Federation, we have to show him the hospitality of the Demon Realm. Let's give him a bye in the first round. Do you have any objections? Yao Feng asked the crowd. No one dared to object to Yao Feng's arrangement. The matter was settled, and the next step was to arrange the selection process. Because the 10 royal divisions had rushed here today, it was quite tiring. Therefore, the selection would not be held immediately today. Instead, it would be held the day after tomorrow to give the crown princes of the 10 royal divisions enough time to rest. The rules of the selection were also relatively simple. They would fight in pairs, and the winner would advance to the next round while the loser would be eliminated. When Qin Chuan participated in the second round of selection, it was still a one-on-one battle. The winner would advance, and a loser would be eliminated. The 3 people who advanced would undergo a special test at the same time. The first 2 to complete the test would enter the final round, and the winner would become the prince consort. There were only so many rules. As for what the special test was, Yao Feng did not specify. He only told everyone that they would know when the time came. After everything was arranged, the banquet officially began. The people from the royal divisions toasted each other, and the atmosphere was extremely lively. Qin Chuan's table of 3 seemed a little out of place. It was exceptionally cold. Qin Chuan, your performance just now really scared me. Ma Jiaowen looked at Qin Chuan with lingering fear. She whispered, "At that time, I was really afraid that those people from the royal divisions would not be able to hold themselves back and attack you. You're too bold. Chuan chuckled when he heard that. He said to Ma Jiawen, "It's not that I'm bold. It's just that I was certain that those people would not dare to attack me." Ma Jiawen was a little confused. She asked, "Why do you say that?" "Because they're different from me." Chuan calmly explained, "The 10 Great King divisions will definitely not dare to be too arrogant in front of the Demon Emperor. They must be as well-behaved as they can be. I don't think I need to explain the logic behind this. As for those nobles, do you think they would really dare to attack me? If they did, who do you think would be a match for me?" "What about Hu Shao?" Ma Jiawen asked. "What if Hu Shao attacks you? He is the one who is least likely to attack me. The more arrogant I appear, the more the other nobles will be unable to sit still. Hu Shao will appear calmer and more disdainful of fighting with me. This will show that he is different from the rest and make others see him in a different light. Do you understand? When the time comes, what will the Demon Emperor and Demon Empress think when they see the other nobles' performances? Will they think that the other nobles are lowering their status by being so calculative with me? If you were the Demon Emperor and Demon Empress, would you think more highly of Hu Shao?" Hearing Chuan's words, Ma Jiawen couldn't help but sigh. "Hearing you say that, I think about it carefully. It seems that Hu Shao was the calmest just now. If it weren't for what you said, I really wouldn't have thought that there were so many tricks involved. Hu Shao is too scheming. If he is not scheming enough, he will not be a noble for long." Chuan chuckled and said to Ma Jiawen, "Just watch. When he meets an opponent in the future, he will definitely stop before going too far. He will definitely not let his opponent lose face. Do you believe me?" Ma Jiawen was skeptical. "How can you be so sure?" Chuan confidently smiled and explained, "It's very simple. Because I said just now, I don't know how to control my strength. I am vicious and merciless. When the time comes, in order to show his demeanor, he will inevitably be as gentle as he can be." Ma Jiawen understood. The more violent Chuan was, the more refined Hu Shao would be. He would deliberately highlight the difference between him and Chuan. With his status as the noble prince of Tiger King tribe, he would certainly be recognized by everyone. Compared to an outsider like Chuan, the people of the 10 king tribes would definitely hope to see one of their own become the prince consort. After thinking of this, Ma Jiawen could not help but give Chuan a thumbs up. "You actually thought of this. Awesome." When Chuan and Ma Jiawen were whispering, Yaorao, who was sitting on the high platform, could not stand it anymore. She suspiciously looked at Chuan and Ma Jiawen, who were sitting together. She muttered in her heart, "Why are these two sitting so close to each other? What are they chatting about? Why are they so happy?" After thinking for a while, Yaorao could not bear it anymore. She turned toward Xueqiu and said, "Mother, daughter has not seen Jiawen for many days. I want to go and chat with her." Hearing Yaorao's words, Xueqiu could not help but stare blankly for a moment. She hesitated and said, "You two haven't seen each other for a long time? How come I remember that you two just came back together yesterday? In any case, one day without seeing each other feels like 3 years." Yaorao said. She had already stood up and walked towards Chuan's table. Yaorao's action immediately attracted the attention of everyone in the main hall. When Hu Shao saw Yaorao walking down the stage, he thought that she was going to come over here. Just when he was about to stand up and greet her, he saw Yaorao directly passing through their Tiger King tribe and walking straight toward the end. Noticing this scene, Hu Zhao's expression became gloomy. Chapter 567. The noisy hall became quiet because of the action of Yaorao. Under the attentive gaze of everyone, Yaorao slowly walked to the side of Ma Jiawen, then said to Ma Jiawen with a smile, "Jiawen, why didn't you say hello to me when you came? I miss you very much." While speaking, Yaorao sat down beside Ma Jiawen. Seeing this scene, everyone understood in their heart. As it turned out, Yaorao had gone to look for Saintess of Heavenly Horse Tribe to reminisce. Just when everyone was preparing to continue chatting and drinking, they suddenly recalled that Yaorao seemed to have returned to Heavenly Monster Mountain with Saintess of Heavenly Horse Tribe yesterday. So to say, Yaorao looking for Saintess of heavenly horse tribe to reminisce was just a pretense, then the real target of Yarao should be Qin Xuan. Recalling the matter of heavenly horse in dragon and phoenix auspicious, as well as the matter of heavenly phoenix, plain Yarao risking her life to save Qin Xuan. Everyone's gaze towards Yarao, and Yarao became extremely subtle. It seems the rumor was true. There really was a story between Yarao and Qin Xuan. Yarao didn't care about other people's gaze. What she cared about was what Qin Xuan and Ma Jiawen were talking about. She didn't conceal it and bluntly asked Ma Jiawen, "What were you and Qin Xuan talking about a moment ago?" "We were talking about." Ma Jiawen suddenly stopped speaking. Then looking at Yarao with a strange gaze, she asked, "You shouldn't have come here because of this matter, right?" Yarao slightly narrowed her eyes, then asked Ma Jiawen, "In your eyes, am I such a stingy person?" Ma Jiawen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Your performance is so obvious. Do you still need to ask others?" But she naturally couldn't say this kind of words. So she said to Qin Xuan, "Why aren't you explaining?" Having heard what was said, Qin Xuan chuckled, then said to Yarao, "Jiawen and I were talking about Hu Zhao's matter. We both feel that Hu Zhao is too good at pretending." Yarao rolled her eyes and said, "Hu Zhao, that guy has been pretending for not a day or two. Just now you didn't see how well-behaved he was in front of my mother. Truly disgusting. Staying in the same space with this kind of person is simply torture." Hearing Yarao, Ma Jiawen somewhat curiously asked, "What were you talking about?" "What can we talk about? It's just some boring topics like cultivating well, working hard, and so on." Yarao's face was in a bad mood. "Really annoying to death. I still have to pretend to listen very seriously, and from time to time pander a sentence or two. Really too tiring. In our Star Dragon Federation, people who do this kind of thing are collectively called actors," Qin Xuan said with a smile. "I can see that your acting isn't professional enough. I don't want to act." Yarao's face was filled with disgust. "What good is it for me to disguise myself as clever, lovable, and cute in front of others? I don't live to please some people. That's too tiring. You have said a lot. You have to be yourself." Qin Xuan nodded and said, "I agree with your approach. Qin Xuan, your arrogant appearance just a moment ago was truly too handsome." Yarao suddenly mentioned the previous matter with an excited face. "I have attended countless banquets in Heavenly Demon Temple and have seen countless young talents, but you're the first one who has the guts to say those words in Heavenly Demon Temple. You are truly too awesome." In the past, Yarao would try to maintain her poise as much as possible when meeting those people, and her manner of speech would always be cultured and refined, wanting to leave a good impression in front of Demon Emperor and Demon Empress. But Qin Xuan wasn't like that. He was himself, and he didn't change to cater to anyone, nor did he do things he didn't want to do. What he showed was his true side, and this was one of the aspects of Qin Xuan that Yarao appreciated and liked the most. True and not artificial. "Can't help it." Qin Xuan shrugged his shoulders. "There aren't many ways to leave a deep impression on your father emperor, and Hu Zhao chose the most pleasing way. If I also choose to be cultured and easygoing, then I will inevitably eat the dust behind Hu Zhao, so I can only be as high profile as possible." Hearing Qin Xuan's words, Ma Jiawen and Yarao suddenly felt that Qin Xuan had gone through great difficulty to leave a good impression on his future father-in-law, and he was truly going all out. Tiger King was slowly drinking a cup of wine, carefully savoring the taste. He raised his eyes and shot a glance at Hu Zhao, then asked, "Xiao, what are you looking at?" Hearing Tiger King's words, Hu Zhao turned his head to look at Hu Zhao, then said in a low voice, "Father Emperor, I am looking at him." Tiger King indifferently asked, "What did you see?" Hu Zhao was silent for a moment, then said in a low voice, "Yarao didn't go to look for Ma Jiawen. She went to look for Qin Xuan. Perhaps the rumor is true. She likes Qin Xuan." Hearing Hu Zhao's answer, Tiger King calmly looked at Hu Zhao, then asked in a flat voice, "So, your state of mind is affected?" Yarao is the future wife of this child. Now she is chatting and laughing with another man. If this child endured it, then I am not a man. Hu Zhao said in heavy voice, "Father Emperor, this child really can't endure it." Tiger King suddenly laughed. "Xiao has really grown up. You have learned how to be jealous." Facing Tiger King's ridicule, Hu Xiao actually couldn't laugh because he was really uncomfortable in his heart. Seeing Hu Xiao's tense face, Tiger King chuckled and said to Hu Xiao, "If you don't like Qin Chuan, then defeat him in the selection fair and square and tell Yao Rao who is the real strongest. As long as you win, the prince consort will definitely be yours. Marry the woman you love first, and love will develop over time." Hearing Tiger King's words, Hu Xiao's expression softened a little. Then he said to Tiger King, "Father, thank you for your advice. I know what to do now. It's good that you are recognized as the #1 genius of the younger generation in the 10 King divisions, and also the strongest person. Everyone thinks that you will be the final winner, the prince consort, and even the person who will sit on the throne in the future. So you have to work hard and don't disappoint those of us who have high hopes for you. Father Emperor, don't worry. I will not let everyone down. I will definitely defeat Qin Chuan." On the high platform, Yao Feng's gaze swept across the audience. Then he asked Snow Chio, who was beside him, "What do you think of the young people below the platform?" Hearing this, Snow Chio smiled and replied, "They are all good children. Even the least outstanding one is still very outstanding." Snow Chio's words were not wrong. The worst of the young people present was the heir of a king division. There was a limit to how bad they could be. "Does your majesty have other opinions?" Snow Chio asked. "What do you think of these young people, your majesty?" Hearing this, Yao Feng replied indifferently. "Other than Hu Xiao and Qin Chuan, the rest are all trash." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.